Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land, and welcome to DC Fans United. So today we've got another live stream for you folks, and I'm really excited to invite two special guests here with me today. So first off, we'll introduce Larry King, since you guys know Larry. He's been on before. How you doing, Larry?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Actually, really good. It's nice to have you guys on. So if you don't know, Larry's awesome. He's a comic book artist. He's working on a comic. He's working on a comic called Neon Trash right now, and he's got other work. And you can check out his YouTube channel with a link in the description box. So the other gentleman there, the Pooh Bear guy, is named. What was your real name? Comic Perch? Alex.
My name is Steve.
Steve. My bad. Sorry. So Steve is awesome. He's here today, and he owns a comic book shop. So that's really cool because it's going to get some interesting insight that personally I'm really interested in, because I rarely get to talk to people who are on the real retail side of things. So with all that said, I guess I'll just start off talking to you guys. So the new comics that came out this week, I guess on the 6th, right? On Wednesday?
That's right.
Yeah.
D-Day.
Yeah, so I thought this week was pretty good for DC. I know it wasn't like a huge week but for events and things necessarily, but there was a lot going on. There was the Justice League #1 that came out, right? And the Hush Batman thing. And then Nightwing and Batman both had big issues. And then the Unexpected #1 came out. So, have you guys been checking out any of those books?
I'm caught up with most of them. I try and read everything through for the week.
Yeah.
I haven't finished, but I'm close to it. Yeah, no, it was going to be the biggest week of the month, for sure.
It was a good one. That's probably nice that you have access to all of those books. Like, I actually made it in on New Comic Book Day, but even so, I had to be somewhat selective. So I got the Unexpected and Justice League #1, but I had to skip on the other new ones. So of those, which did you like the best, Perch? Did you have a preference?
Well, I mean, from a sales perspective, Justice League was wonderful. I think if DC could do that once a month, that'd be great for me. So that title overperformed. We knew it would do well, but it did incredibly well. It tapped into, I think, the nostalgia factor of people who cartoons and all of that. And for whatever reason, I don't know if other shops had the same experience or regions, but that title just sold incredible.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring up the Justice League, because the team on the cover looks like basically the Justice League from the animated show, right? It's like the same roster. They got Jon Stewart,
It's
Hot Girl. It's similar.
Yeah, no, it's similar. It's an interesting mix, I think, between the team on the cartoon and the team from the way back in the different moments of Justice League coming together. And Snyder does a pretty good job of putting it all into one package, and it still feels modern. So fans of any era of Justice League came in and saw something to recognize even Grant Morrison there. People can see something of what they love there, and it flew off the shelves. It did really well. I mean, it's a first issue, so it's hard to tell where it's going exactly. But I mean, Snyder unabashedly loves to go big concept and throw things on the wall.
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, he definitely goes big, huh? I just read Justice League No Justice, the first issue of that, right before this stream, and he goes huge, doesn't he? Multi-versal thing, and it's only a 4-issue book. I'm like, holy cow, this is insane. But I liked it, I gotta admit. So talking about Justice League #1, though, that must just take place right after No Justice. Is that right?
Yeah, short period of time after. It's hard to tell exactly. I mean, some time has passed, but not much. He's continuing. We went from Metal to No Justice to Justice League #1. It's a pretty fluid story.
So it's more a follow-up to Metal than a follow-up to No Justice. Is that right?
I think the two go together. I think if you don't feel like you're missing something if you didn't do justice. But there's a lot of elements, especially with the villains, with what they were doing with Luther and some of the things in No Justice 3 and 4 that definitely are picked up on here. So it's a continuation. It's plot threads. I mean, I think Metal, people misunderstood that it was just an event and a crossover, but it was really Snyder laying the seeds for what he wanted to do the next, for a long period of time. This is going to be years of exploring the kind of things he opened up in Metal, and then No Justice kind of put a bullet on it, for lack of a better word, around how the villains are going to shake out, how the dynamic is going to be, and bringing the Martian Manhunter back into the fold.
Yeah,
So I think it's all one story.
Okay, that makes it kind of hard for people to jump in. I feel like, because I didn't catch a lot of Metal actually. So starting out, just reading Justice League #1, I was kind of like, what the heck? It's not really what I expected from a #1 Justice League book. Not saying it's not good, but it definitely was like, okay, I read about half and was like, I'm going to go back and read No Justice. So that's what I'm doing now. But sometimes I end up reading things backwards. Really, you got to start with Metal then?
I think so. Yeah, okay. I think Metal. I think I saw somewhere Snyder say, but I may be forgetting it, that Metal was kind of the real Justice League #1, and then we got, we went through that series and into No Justice. So it's a continuing story. I think we had new readers come in who hadn't followed the other two, and they were able to catch up just fine. It felt like action to them, but there's so many Easter eggs, and I think Snyder's definitely building on concepts earlier. So yeah, you're better off if you could do it.
Okay. I mean, I knew it went in order, but I kind of thought it was a little bit more of a standalone thing.
Yeah, for me, I got actually picking it up. I picked it up. I hadn't read anything except for that first issue of the when they did the Justice League, the Dark Metal, was it the Forge or whatever? The Prelude or whatever. I read that. That's the only thing I read, and I read Justice League #1. I didn't read the was able to get in my shop those weeks, and I was like, okay. And then I was actually able to go to my shop Wednesday. They had sighting a windowsill fall off. The building's like 150 years old, and it started falling off, and so the building was evacuated. And so apartments above and the comic book store below, everybody had to leave, so the shop wasn't open most of the day Wednesday. It was open for like 2 hours, and then they shut it down Wednesday and Thursday, most of the day Friday, and then I think they opened back up today. But yeah, it's been kind of rough for the shop, but I guess it'll be okay once they get the little structural integrity back in place. But reading that Justice League #1 and being thrown into it, and I actually like that, because it's like, I hate the slow burn world build stuff. It's like, nope, here it is, crazy over the top Silver Age action, super cavemen with their different adaptability powers. Oh, we gotta blow up the moon, we gotta do this and that. This is like a Silver Age story. But then I haven't been excited for a comic since maybe, God help me, Infinite Crisis, the first issue of Infinite Crisis, where it ends with Superboy Prime and Golden Age Superman, like, we gotta go save them, that kind of thing, where I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what happens next. And it just sets up everything perfectly, and I was like, this is great. This is what these comics should be like.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I agree. It's like, a lot of people, back in the days when Claremont was doing X-Men, a lot of people came in and did that run. I mean, very few people came at the beginning of Claremont's run of X-Men. And Claremont was dense with continuity, random story plots. He always had at least 2 or 3 things going on at once. But when people were able to come in and jump on, it wasn't just this big kind of hand-waving around accessibility and making it easy for new readers. I think you write comics that are engaging, that are going to feel like action, crazy off-the-wall stuff, and you make it a little easier for them to get back issues, get caught up, and remind them where you need to. I mean, people are generally smart; they'll figure it out, and I think that's what's going on here with Justice League. There's a lot here that's pretty dense. Snyder is a pretty dense writer, in a sense. I mean that as a compliment, not as an insult. But it's not the biggest deal. And if there's something that doesn't make sense, or he doesn't find you all, go back and look it up. I think that's a healthier way of thinking about comics rather than constantly every 6 months or so trying to cater to a new audience that, frankly, is rarely there.
Yeah. It is nice that they are building on something and, you know, it's continuing to grow. I was, to be honest, when they relaunched everything with Rebirth, I was so concerned because we had to reset everything again, you know, and it's actually...
I was like, thank God the Chinese collar era is over.
True. I mean, in a way it had to be done, but it was still a big concern for me just to reset everything again. I mean, it's taken this long just to bring back a lot of the characters, so it's been a big couple of years, but, you know, ultimately I think it has been for the best. I like a lot of what I've seen come from DC in the past couple of years.
Yeah,
I think it's the best direction.
It was a risk. I mean,
it was a huge risk.
Yeah. And it was, you know, they did the New 52. That was, what, 5-6 years earlier. Convergence was a misfire. But, you know, it's certainly, I will tell you, I was worried that Rebirth was going to be another dud, that it was going to be another kind of shuffling for mystery's sake. But they pulled it off. They did the right thing, and it's been fine. I mean, Rebirth was very smart marketing, and you could tell it was smart because very few people believed it. It sounded too good to be true when the marketing first started coming in. John and Dio were first starting to talk about what they were doing. Nobody really believed it, and they pulled it off. But that's why it worked for them. But it was a risk for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right about people not believing it. I was definitely in that camp. I was like, okay, so, especially the way they were selling it to us. They were like, it's not a reboot. It's not a reboot. We promise it's not. It's Rebirth. It's not a reboot. I'm, you know, okay, you're splitting hairs here. But it was like taking elements of the New 52 that they wanted and getting rid of things that they didn't. And yeah, ultimately it ended up working out.
It did. I think there were... The interesting thing about the relaunch, this is now in hindsight, looking back on it, the comic news sites were reporting on it, and it was pretty negative. You read CBR in particular, not Newsarama's kind of agnostic to everything, but Bleeding Cool, some of these other sites were reporting on Rebirth, and they were reporting pretty negatively. I mean, the articles are still up, and they were really pointing out they're saying Rebirth, not reboot. You know, we'll believe them this time. And you're getting this kind of very negative vibe off of what they were doing, and a lot of that, frankly, I think was some jealous who were getting ousted in that process, and we're not going to be part of it. There's definitely an interesting slant to those stories that trying to set up not that it would fail, just that you can't trust it. And in hindsight, you look at it. I mean, you come off Convergence, you come off BCU, which was not doing well. Nobody liked it. Sales were struggling badly, and I mean, it was a foregone conclusion. Something had to be done. John's coming in saying, "I'm gonna put focus back on the characters and what fans have been asking for." I mean, yeah, it's a no-brainer of a decision. It's interesting that it definitely seemed controversial and risky at the time. Now looking back on it, it was, what else could they have done? It was what they needed.
Yeah, they did keep.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
They did. I'm just gonna say they did keep the New 52 limping along for quite a while in retrospect, but yeah, go ahead, Larry.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say the biggest problem to the New 52 is like what I was expecting. Years prior, and when Wizard Magazine was a thing, they actually did. It was like the ultimate DC. Like they took I forgot the artist they used. Like one of them was like Christian Zanier and a couple other people, and it was like they based in the costume for their ultimate Batman is basically the same one they used for the Earth 1 Batman, except Jim Gordon. They cast Ludacris as Jim Gordon, like an old Ludacris version. I was like, what? No, that doesn't work, but whatever. And like the Teen Titans were more like celebrity heroes, and Wonder Woman had like, she basically looked like the Wonder Woman from the movie. That more kind of armor-looking design. Like, I mean, that's seen before in the comics, but it had that look. And when there was like New 52, and I'm like, okay, start out fresh, like, you know, like an ultimate version of the. And when I read that first, like I recently had read this, I'd read the Scott Snyder, the Black Mirror run for Batman when it was Dick Grayson, which is such an incredible story. It's like, it's a Batman story that doesn't even have Bruce Wayne in it. You know, it's the focus on Jim Gordon Jr. and Barbara and Mad Hatter, all great stuff, great stuff. And I love that. I love when Dick Grayson was Batman with Damian as Robin. It was perfect. And then we get into New 52 where they throw you in. It's like, okay, this is like this 6-part Ultimate style story arc with the Court of Owls and all this. And I'm like, oh, I don't care. This is, and it was like, Snyder, what have you done? But then now, like with the New 52 being gone, I just feel like they should have just done a hard, kind of this. You've never heard of these characters before. We're doing like brand new takes on them, more akin to what you've seen. I kind of use the Nolan films as a jumping off point, like a more grounded Batman, less over the top. Like, I actually wouldn't mind that, like an Ultimate's take on it. But now it's it was what it was. But with the rebirth and everything, bringing it back, except Leanne Harper, that right there, I'll never forgive them for that. But they did Leanne Harper.
Oh,
but,
that's one thing I don't quite know too. In Rebirth, is stuff like that still canon? Like, is she still dead? Is she back?
Apparently so. It's like because Prometheus killed her, and like cry for just. Oh God, I hated that. That was such a dark era. I mean, that kind of made me hate James Robinson for a while. Same thing with Brad Meltzer with Identity Crisis years earlier. Yeah. Which I don't know who retweeted it, but yeah, seeing that tweet from that Valerie or Rice, it's just like where it was not Meltzer, it was like Didio or whoever. She didn't say who. Like, hey, we got the rate pages then. Like, oh my God, this is everything confirmed, and I feel bad for hating on Brad Meltzer for all these years. So I'm sorry, Brad, wherever you are.
He did write some good stuff aside from Identity Crisis. Like, I really do. Justice League, that Lightning saga.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I read that a few times. It's so good. A team up with Justice League, the JSA, and Legion of Superheroes. That's good stuff.
Another team you haven't seen.
A lot of good.
Right? At least they're bringing some of those guys back. Like, I saw Our Man in the new Justice League comic, but he might have been in the future or something.
Yeah, the DC 1 million. Yeah, that was DC 1 million section. I was like, wow, they're really bringing back some. That's some deep cuts right there.
Deep cut, right? That's Snyder for you, though. He's digging up all kinds of cool stuff. I was seeing that in No Justice as well.
Yeah.
It was like reading Crisis on Infinite Earths in some ways. There's all these little characters like, oh yeah, I haven't seen him in a while. It's pretty cool. I like
that's what DC's doing really well right now. Is they have this vast library of characters, and they are tapping into it, and not all the writers are consistently, but overall they're mining their IP, for lack of a better word. They are going in and they're using all the different tools they have. And even if they screw something up, there's still a benefit to bringing some of these faces and having it shaken up. And it's kind of the exact opposite approach that Marvel is taking right now, which is very, very insular, where there's fewer characters, fewer villains. And so you see a real contrast in the two companies with their library. I mean, they like to have that. They like to have those moments where you see something on a panel. Like, yeah, I remember this character years ago. Oh, that's something people like to see.
Yeah, I think it's funny because that's one thing I know I and a lot of other people do. We kind of criticize DC for not using all of their characters. But from what you're saying, it sounds like they actually are doing a better job of it than Marvel is. Because they both have huge libraries of just thousands of characters, I'm always like, why don't you bring out the Fawcett universe characters? But you're saying Marvel's doing the same?
So Marvel has an editorial directive. I don't know how much it's enforced, but certainly a couple years ago where it was, really focus on the primary characters, focus on primary villains. Certainly what helps people, it's that same thing. It's like, don't confuse the readers by having 1,000 characters running around. Kind of go with the 20 and you look at the comics consistently, and villains overlap in the same month, title to title, and there's definitely a limit of characters. I mean, there are characters in the Marvel comics. If you go to pick up like the handbook to the Marvel Universe or any old books that kind of went through the library, I posted up a couple of weeks ago a big poster that was a Art Adams jam or John Byrne jam with all the different characters that they had. Hundreds of characters on this one image. And I don't know, maybe 1/10 of them are used now. It's too bad.
It really is, because look back then, like, I mean, you had, what pisses me off is when I was getting comics, like, as a kid, it was spinner racks. Very rarely could I go to the comic store because it was an hour away. The closest one was an hour away, and it was just, a lot of the books I wanted, I couldn't afford. That's just how it was. Like, a lot of the back issues, because I was doing back issues and, like, some stuff from the newer, I was like, I get some old stuff, too. It looks good. Mainly X-Men, Avengers, stuff like that. And when my Captain Marvel was Monica Rambeau, and that right there, and then like the fact that people like, oh no, Carol's the Captain. I'm like, she was binary. She was cool as binary. She was cool as Miss Marvel. That costume is, it stands out. Like you could draw her as like a tiny figure, and you could tell the black leotard, blonde hair, and the lightning bolt. You can tell who that is. This new costume that they over-designed, and I hate the design for that costume. I know people are like, well, it's more, I think they designed it's more cosplay friendly. You should not be thinking about that when it comes to comic characters. That's not a real thing. The male gaze, cosplay, this, that. No, it should focus on the comics. Oh, and he got a little bit of that earlier.
A little bit. I about got
you deserved
roasted.
it. Don't mess.
That was ridiculous. I don't even want to get into that. I eventually had to mute the whole thread. I was just like, what the heck? I don't need 17 notifications every second.
Oh, I do that too sometimes. I'll like, I started a little forest fire. Well, let me just like put my fingers in my ears. I'll walk away.
Right. It's still going on, but I'm ignoring it. So, like, whatever.
But but that's like when you look at how Marvel was then and is now, and you look how DC. It's like in some ways I'm kind of glad, because DC, to my knowledge, they like when Starman ended, they have not brought Jack Knight back. Because that book ended, and Jack Knight he's retired as a hero. He wouldn't just be a father. To my knowledge, unless PERCH could prove me wrong or say I'm wrong, I haven't seen him show back up in the DC universe. But
wait, I don't think so.
Yeah,
sorry, who?
Jack Knight. He's the lead character from the James Robinson, Tony Harris Starman book, one of the greatest books of the '90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I think you're right. There are a lot of local cameos going on, and I look them up later, but I'm pretty sure he hasn't.
Yeah, not that I've seen.
But I'm kind of disappointed there are some of these characters that, when they do bring them back, it's like in just like a cameo role. It's like Phantom Lady. I love like the old school Phantom Lady, not when they like dressed her up too much.
Oh, like, the Freedom Fighters?
Yeah, like the Freedom Fighters era. Yeah, like the Freedom Fighters in general. I mean, there's like, I'm a big Black Hawk fan. Like when they're doing the Black Hawk book, and it looked like some crap G.I. Joe when they did the New 52. I'm like, oh no, why'd you do this to the Black Hawks?
Yeah, I think the last Uncle Sam and Freedom Fighters book was what, like 2005 or 7 maybe? It was like in that Countdown to Final Crisis era.
Yeah, the Battle Bloodhaven. Yeah,
that was
Daniel Acuna doing the artwork. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of like that book.
That was like, that was a different Phantom Lady though. I was like but either way, but the same similar character, but like a little personality wise, a little different. But like stuff like that. Like I'm glad that the DC is doing miniseries, or max. They're maxi series, but 12 issues for a Raven book. I'm like,
Oh yeah, we were talking about that. I'm still really interested in Raven, Daughter of Darkness, though, mostly because Marv Wolfman, he wrote the character originally. That's one thing I really like. They try and do, like with Bane Conquest. They got Chuck Dixon and was it Graham Nolan
Graham Nolan doing the artwork? Yeah.
Yeah, and they're both the creators, so I really like that when they get the people who created the character to write the character. It's awesome. So yeah, I haven't read Raven, Daughter of Darkness. It was sold out when I went in, but I don't know. I'm hyped for it. I think it looks cool.
Well, there's a Braylon in the chat that says he thinks there's too many Justice League books. There's no need for 2. And I was like, is there 2? I know there's the new Snyder one, but there's a Justice League book as well, one going on as well.
Yeah, there's 3.
3.
Yeah, there'll be 3.
Oh my God! And no JSA books, no main. Like I remember when JSA was a thing, like the early John when John's doing it and Goyer, and that was actually better than Justice League at the time. Because after the first, like, say, 20 issues of the Morrison run, I kind of lost interest. But that JSA stuff, like, yeah, these are characters you didn't really know. Like, you know, you got Yakeem Thunder, and you have Star and Stripe, or Stargirl and Stripe, and you have Atom Smasher, and all like these kind of rando B and C level heroes, but they had so much more heart and character. It was a family. JSA is a family. Justice League is just like a team of powerful people. Like that's why I like the JSA more. And then even that John's run, even I was a little questionable on it with the whole, you know, when the whole Kingdom Come, the Kingdom arc they did, which was I kind of did like it though because it was Kingdom Come. I was like, I gotta like it. I kind of gotta like it.
Alex Ross art, like
Alex Ross covers. Dale Eaglesham doing the interiors, and I know he's not a fan of. There's people that are not a fan of him right now.
No, everyone in their politics and stuff like just gives me a headache sometimes. Like so, I had to make nice with Kurt Busiek. Like came down to it, the guy blocked me, and I'm looking at my bookshelf like, hey, I see Kingdom Come and I see Marvels. I don't want to stop reading books like that. I'm just going to make nice with the guy. And, you know, he unblocked me and everything, but it's just like, we got to separate the art and the artist sometimes.
Yeah, it's hard for me sometimes.
Yeah. It's hard, but yeah, I agree with you. I think there's you just have to be really sure that you're willing to harbor that grudge. And I think if you have a creator who's, you know, has different politics than you, or is just going to be an ass online. I mean, everybody's an ass online. Going to the mat with those people, I think I'm not sure who wins. It's not the creator. It's not you. Nobody in that world. Yeah. And definitely, I think some creators can then push it to the point that you just can't. And that's where, you know, in addition to just doing something that disagrees with you, they actually start mocking you or start actively trying to push away your business. That's kind of a different story, but it's easy to fall into that trap where you just start to dislike everyone, and once you get onto that slide, you know, you're never going to agree with anyone, and no one ever is going to agree with you. So you gotta figure out where to draw that line for yourself that you're comfortable. But you know, the more forgiving I think you can be with things people say online that you might disagree with but really don't impact you, it's healthier to just ignore, frankly. But definitely some creators push it too far, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Boy, that's really good advice, you know, not just from comic book creators, but anytime someone posts something and it rubs you the wrong way, just let it go. At least really be sure you want to respond. If you do, you know, think about it beforehand. And I did listen to your live stream when you were on Larry King's channel the other day. Maybe, I don't remember how long ago that was, but, and you guys touched on this topic too, I remember. About creators and the whole conversation with them and stuff. So I don't know. I think it's a really tough topic for a lot of people. I think sometimes I end up just unfollowing if I don't want to see what they're saying. I mean, at the end of the day, that might be the healthiest choice.
It's also what you get out of it. If the person's posting artwork, that's what I look at it. It's like, that's fine, but if they're a writer, you're not going to get much out of it except for political rants, and that's about it.
It just depends, though. Like Scott Snyder and Tom King are both awesome on Twitter. They just post like about their families and about comics.
Exceptions to the rule, I guess.
Yeah, they're definitely exceptional.
I think most actually, if you took a look at all the creators online and you separated them all out, most of them are good people. It's hard to believe that because the ones who are bad are very noisy. but the majority of them are reasonable people. They're not insane, and then you just have a small handful that are a little bit more forthcoming with maybe their politics or snarky to fans. But it is a trap. I mean, a lot of fans are snarky to the creator. The creator is snarky in return, and it just kind of builds from there. And then there's a small handful of people who are real true assholes. I mean, no doubt about it. So.
Yeah, exactly right. You know, we always lay all the blame on the creators. I see it go both ways. I see people ask them or say really unreasonable things to them, and then they get a response back that's sure kind of rude or whatever, and then they'll retweet the rude response that they got, like, oh, look, I got Eric Larson or, you know, whoever to say something back to me. I'm this big thing, like I poked the bear, and it's like, you should have just, you know, been respectful to begin with. Yeah, I don't know.
I've argued pretty aggressively with Eric Larson. I'm not blocked. I agreed with him a day later on something, and he agreed with me. He retweeted something positively. He retweeted something mean. I mean, it's just a dynamic. I don't, you know, the guy is who he is. He's been the same guy for 35 plus years. Larry and I talked about this last time. There's nothing, there's no new personality come out of Eric Larson that anybody should be surprised about.
No.
But it doesn't feel malicious. It just feels like a guy who needs to be good.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, he is one of the folks I just ended up unfollowing. You know, it's cool. I don't read Savage Dragon anyway. I don't need to be in his world. It's fine.
Read porn? You don't read. You're too good for Savage Dragon.
Yeah, I don't read that hentai crap he puts out for what, $10 a book with the special porn cover, and it's just like, dude.
I actually saw the cover. That made me kind of sick, and I've seen horrible things in my life.
Yeah,
and I was just like,
dude has no shame at this point.
Well, at least he didn't do the drawing, but he commissioned somebody to do that.
Oh, okay.
Like, it was somebody else, and it was like this. It's like what Vertigo and these other publishers do. Like they have like the multiple, the variants. Like apparently that's a thing on eBay.
Huh.
And like, where if you go, like, as I was looking up, they're Fumetti, the little Italian comics, and a lot of them are very hypersexualized covers. Like there's a woman her boobs are about to pop out. He's like a ghost chasing her, and like there's like Spanish comics like that from Central America, Mexico, stuff like that. And I like those kind of comics. They're over the top. It's like beautiful covers. The interiors are pretty good too, and like that was like that was a recommendation. I was like, what is that? I'd never heard of this comic, and it's basically just like porn cover of the comic, and it's like, what is this? Like, this is trash, but people buy it.
Yeah.
But speaking of buy, like Perch, you were mentioning the other day about how like there's books like Deathstroke, which is a solid book, but just doesn't move. It just doesn't have. It's like it's kind of stagnated. Is that
with Christopher Priest still?
Yeah, it's Christopher Priest. It's a good. I mean, the challenge that Deathstroke has is that it's a very good book, but it has a shelf. I mean, it has a limit. It has a group that buys it religiously. It has a small group of pickup. The Batman storylines brought some additional sales in, but not much. It has its market, and it's a market that certainly is healthy enough where it's not going to get canceled, but it can't break through the ceiling, if you will. It struggles to get further, and there's a lot of theories around that. It's a villain book. It's a bit of a confusing sell in some places. It's not easy to go cheap and have a Deadpool-like or Harley Quinn-like attitude in the book. It is what it is. So in saving it, maybe the character gets to be part of a major team or a crossover, gets more visibility onto it. It just I've been promoting and pushing the hell out of it. A lot of people online have too, but it can't seem to break through. It can't seem to expand its audience. And you look at that one of two ways: either that's a shame because it can't get bigger, or you look at it and go, well, it's got a core audience that buys it. What's wrong with that? So it is what you want.
I mean, you have to make it like a mini event. I think, like maybe Deathstroke. He supposedly kills, like, say, he kills, Damian Wayne or something, or Catwoman. And then, like, so the Bat family is after him, and so it's like maybe make that a little, through run, like 4-6 issue story or something through the Bat books. Like that could make some interest happen, but even then that just be like temporary, I think.
Wasn't he leading the Teen Titans or something for a while? They were all wearing the white and black outfits.
It was kind of a different team. It wasn't the Titans, but it was kind of his own team.
Oh,
Ravagers, like the Ravagers, I think.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think the interesting thing that's going on right now, Larry, is that the storyline they have actually, somebody just posted this. The storyline they have going right now is Batman versus Deathstroke with kind of the parentage of Damian in question, and it's a very. It should be a bigger storyline, and I know from talking to some people, there is a bit of frustration within these things that they did think that this storyline would spike things more than it has, and it hasn't taken off like people expected. Now, again, I want to be clear, it sells its numbers, and it's not in danger of cancellation. It does okay. It's just people keep expecting it to kind of break through that ceiling and become. It certainly has a quality for it, but it's missing something in getting people's attention.
Well, too, I don't know what its numbers are, but if it's selling, what, like 30,000, 40,000, around there?
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah.
Dude, that's not even that bad. Like, how many comic books? I mean, it's probably in the top 50 then, or top 100 at least. And that's the thing, people get lost in these numbers. We had a couple good books, like Doomsday Clock and that Spider-Man 800 sold really well, but usually, there's like 2 or 3 books that sell over 100,000. It's insane. Like,
but the thing is, usually those, I mean, there's like, you got to think they're variant covers. There's variant covers for those, and not only that, but when they're the bigger books and everything like that, I know it probably ain't as popular as it once was. I think they still do loot crates and stuff like that. So I have a feeling that might be another thing. The numbers are in a way somewhat inflated because it's like like the sell-through numbers. Like PERCH has educated me, and I'm still learning. But with the like just because that number is reported does not actually mean those books got into readers' hands. And
sure.
Not sitting somewhere in a back room of a comic shop waiting for the ones on the shelf to go down so you put more out there.
Oh yeah. I mean, even Action Comics 1000, they reported it sold 450,000, which is really a high amount and an unusually high amount. But it was 9 variant covers plus the main cover, and then there were many exclusive covers, right?
Okay, yeah. So
over 20 exclusives that I was able to find. But anyways, when I was there on Wednesday, they still had some on the shelf. So how many actually sold is anyone's guess. Maybe PERCH knows.
You typically, no. Well, nobody knows for sure. But I mean, these bigger issues, especially the anniversary issues like that. I mean, you do overorder. You do kind of. A lot of comic shop people, I think, would disagree with me. But you want some on the shelf. I mean, I don't necessarily want to sell out. It'd be nice if it happened, but that's the kind of issue that 3-4 months from now, people will come in wanting to pick up some Superman stuff, and you want to be able to service the customer by having it there. So a lot of people over-ordered. A lot of the non-traditional comic shops ordered. So that those issues exist. I mean, the problem is there's fewer of them, and comic book companies, and again, in particular Marvel, are not taking advantage of the anniversary issues like DC is. A lot of people complain online about Action Comics and the fact that it was kind of a jam issue and a bunch of small stories, and notable YouTube reviewers really roasted it being kind of a garbage issue with nothing really happened. But it's a landmark issue. And it's what you really want for that number, and it's not designed to kind of be a story for a month. It's designed to be something that you can look back on and get kind of a flavor of a lot of different Superman deals, and that's what it was. And you compare that to Captain America, which really missed the boat, or Superman, which did wrap up that storyline really nicely. It won't age that well because it's the last issue storyline.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Action Comics 1000 was basically perfect. I didn't like the Bendis story at the end, but really, you're exactly right. It gave us everything we could have hoped for. Like, they put their best people on it, at least the ones they perceived to be the best. Like, it was their A-team of writers and artists, and you got Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez and like Pete Swan and all this stuff. Like,
you heard Swan?
Sorry, Kurt. Yeah, right. Sorry.
Yo, Pete Swan, what's up, bro?
I'm all excited here and thinking about it. But yeah,
that Jurgen story, the way it started out, like that right there is like, this
oh
is
man,
music, folks. This is Superman. This is how when I think of Superman, this is what I think of. And it's like we're losing this.
Oh man, that was like fan service, honestly. But it's like, hey, you paid $10 for a Superman comic. You probably want some fan service. Like, honestly, it was a beautiful story, but it was just like that whole story was about how Superman is great, and everyone was like at a rally to celebrate Superman, and I don't know. It was almost over the top. It took it like right to the edge of just being too much, and then I got a little tear in my eye, and I was like, I love this story. But they were all really good. I mean, even the Brad Meltzer story, people always rag on him, but I thought that his little story was real good too.
I've come around to it now.
Yeah,
it was a good book. It was what it needed to have happen. And by the way, I because I was curious, I looked up. So Deathstroke, yeah, it's lower than we thought. So Deathstroke in March actually moved 17,600 issues roughly.
Ouch.
And so yeah, and that's about right. It's lower. I thought that was high. It's in the 20s to 30s typically. But keep in mind, so there is a little bit of worry in that this is the storyline now where Batman's in the picture, they're doing bigger things. But to give you a sense, I mean, the issue right above it was Champions, outsold it barely. Eternity Girl was within 1,000 issues of selling. So it's not in the healthiest spot. And it just can't seem to be tough. But bear in mind, if you go to any issue that sells under 50,000 copies, you're at issue number 20. You're the 22 selling issue. So everything is down.
Yeah,
it's not.
Well, they flood
the whole industry.
They flood the shelves. Not that much sells that well to begin with, and you go into the shop and you look at the wall and there's hundreds of issues to pick from. It's pretty overwhelming. I don't know. I think it's really hard for any book to stand out. I'm really not surprised Deathstroke isn't doing that well, but it sucks because Christopher Priest is a great writer. How's the art on it though?
Oh, it's great. No, I think the current storyline has really sharp art.
Wow. Well, that's just a shame.
Well, It's a shame. But it is. You're right. I mean, there's too much on the shelf, and there's too much on the shelf that isn't different. So here's where I'll make a big pitch that is the opposite of what people hear online. We really actually do need more diversity in the sense of diverse titles that have something for everyone. It's a little bit what I think DC tried to do with New Age of Heroes, but you need titles that are going to appeal to different people, not different religions and races or but that demographic necessarily. You need interests. You need to appeal to different interests. And the challenge you have right now, is definitely more similar to Marvel, is there's just a lot of books on the shelves, but they all feel totally about the same, and that is a problem. It makes everything kind of missable when you have too much.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I know you guys talked about that on the live stream you did on Larry's channel too, and that's a really good point. And DC is guilty of this as well as Marvel. And I love superheroes, but they're focused almost entirely on superheroes. You go back and look at the older DC comics from the 60s and 70s, and probably the 80s too. They had, weird Western tales, and I guess in the 50s too, you had all kinds of war comics and
Creature Commandos. You had
the Creature Commandos.
I saw a cover for that. It was one where where Frankenstein's picking up a swastika. You got the Dracula or whatever, and then the wolf, and it's like this right here. This cover. It's like I'm looking at these old covers. You had Black Hawks, which is a war story. It's about pilots. It's basically Top Gun. Basically, except less homoerotic.
Well, in older times. Definitely less homoerotic. Have you seen Lady Black Hawk? Oh man.
What there's that cover though, with the space tentacle octopus monsters coming after her. I'm like, oh no, keep this away from the internet.
The Ritter media. But what's really bad is Wonder Woman covers from back then.
Them Wonder Woman the Golden Age ones, especially all the bondage on the covers. But the fact that these comics used to have like stuff like when Detective Comics actually had detective stories in it, like Slam Bradley and that kind. Like how great would like murder mysteries, private detective stuff, like hardcore, like crime stories, like kind of Gotham Central like in the DC universe. Like Gotham Central was totally tonal and story wise as well as just content from everything else that was going on. Yeah, it was set within Gotham City, and you had Batman characters. You even had like when they went to Central City, and it's like guys with the last name of Allen. And Christmas Allen goes there and says, Allen, the name's legendary in this town. And that kind of stuff was great, but it was a crime story. And you don't get much of that. You don't it's superhero with a twist. It's superhero with this twist and that twist. It's like, no, like these, like the Unknown Soldier. Yeah, it's about a guy whose face is blown off and it's all bandaged up, but it's a war story. Sergeant Rock, Easy Company, like that. It's what is it? The House of Mystery.
Exactly. House of Mystery. It used to be huge. It had hundreds and hundreds of issues. When we were going to talk about Jerry Conroy, he wrote some of those. There's all this cool stuff that they're kind of just sitting on. I guess it's a catch-22, right? We're saying they have too much stuff on the shelves, but then they aren't publishing enough of what we want either. So I don't know.
And it's not just that it's not that you take away superheroes, because there's plenty of, as you said at the beginning, there's tons of good heroes, tons of good characters to play with.
Yeah.
It's just that you should have, you need a superhero book that is more lighthearted. You need a superhero book that's more serious. You need a superhero book that's more feels like it's faster paced. One that's more dense and kind of a thinking book. You have, if you look back at the different eras, you had Morrison's take on things, you had Byrne's take on things, you had Claremont's take on things. These were really distinctive styles that you have in comics, and both DC and Marvel at various times really pushed their editorial to have these very strong voices in the comic, and hero comics just kind of feel all the same. So they're still all superhero comics, but you had the Claremont style and you had the Byrne style. And in DC, you have some differentiation. It's actually not bad. This book feels very different from the Snyder book. But in Marvel, you have almost all the voices sound really similar. The jokes sound the same. The narrative sounds the same. And so you get the feeling like, if you're not part of the audience that gets the humor, likes that type of storytelling, then you're locked out of 90% of the titles. And that's more the diversity I think I'm talking about, is diverse in terms of the storyteller is telling a unique story, and you can hear the storyteller's voice. It is why I like this one. You can hear Priest's voice come out through the comic. And I think that's really valuable, but it's something that's not pushed right now.
Now, that's a character he's been interested in for a long time, from what I've heard. Or did he write him in the past, or he just wanted to write Deathstroke for a long time? Do you know?
He's wanted to write him for a very long time. He's mentioned an interview before.
Yeah.
I think he had done something before. Yeah.
That's so cool then. I'm going to have to check that out. I'm guilty of that myself. I haven't been following it. It's good to know, though.
There's a question from the chat, Perch. Wants to know, let me find it real quick. What if we're plebs who really only love superheroes?
Plebes, right?
Plebs, either way.
No,
as far as like readers and everything.
Yeah, we should get good superhero books. For sure. I think you can have lots of different superhero styles.
Yeah.
You don't have to make them all. The problem is the storytelling all starts to get the same. And then, what do you need a distinctive writer for? You can just have kind of house style of writing, and you could bring anybody on the street and just kind of turn it out with a machine.
Wow. You've always had a house art style, a house writing style. That's a concept I hadn't thought of before.
Well, look at the Ultimate Comics. That right there was like all Bendis style. X-Men, Fantastic Four, everything they did. They're all like, it really, Miller. Even though Miller did Ultimates, it was a very Bendis-y style. He had like that kind of that format, 6-issue arc, like pretty pretty straightforward build up, payoff. And it's like, I wish it would have been more like a Warren Ellis, the first volume of the Authority, all the first 3 arcs, the Authority, because it's 4 issues there, but like a lot tighter paced. Also, Brian Hitch art as well.
Oh, but, that art, man! You showed me that book. I'm definitely going to buy that. I will. So the art alone was so good. I read the preview for the Authority. It blew me away. I really love those characters too. They're pretty neat.
Unfortunately, they're being abused by DC Wildstorm right now. The Wildstorm imprint that's much like the New Universe imprint that Warren Ellis did, where, hey, Warren Ellis, you get in charge of a universe. Oh no, please no. Because like it's like, hey, let's take the fun out of the Wildstorm universe. Give it to Warren Ellis, where he makes Grifter some just like schlub, you know, and like now the engineer, instead of being this badass chick, Angela Spica? Like that was she was such a badass in the comics. Now she's like, my implants hurt because I put them in myself. I'm like, this is miserable. This is Misery, the comic book. I didn't want to pay for this. So I was like, that stopped. I was like, it's not going to get any better. It's
no. There were people. That was the big. I mean, DC's done a lot of things real well. I think that the Wildstorm books, there was so much excitement. And people have kind of forgotten what Ellis brings to the table. And either you like him or you don't. But they announced those books, and people had them on their pull list, and there was a lot of excitement for those books. Even the artist, there was this feeling that clean rooms, the talent. And so then you had these people get that first issue, and it was like sad trombone noise. It was just, that was not what anybody wanted to see. And it has its fans. There are people who like it, but all the people who came in wanting kind of the 90s danger, quick action, the Authority feel, kind of some of the Wildcats feel, that was not what they got.
It's kind of like, would you say DC has too many imprints, or they're just using them in weird ways? Because we've got, you're talking about the Wildstorm, and boy, like the new Doom Patrol was just weird, and the whole Young Animals line, and then they've had all this announcement with Vertigo just losing its mind. Like, what do you think?
Yeah.
Kind of a strange time for DC.
Yeah, I mean, DC's doing what they're trying to branch out. They're definitely, so I mean, both major publishers, even Image, although Image will never admit this in public. I mean, they definitely want to get new audiences. The business, they see a contraction. They see a lot of Scholastic, and that arm is getting more power. They're seeing their hold on the industry starting to shrink, and so they're desperate to open up some new markets, absolutely desperate. But they're going about it in a really kind of odd way. They're going about it by either really catering to some creators who are very, very noisy on social media. So in theory, they should bring an audience, but people haven't quite figured out yet that the audience people have on social media does not translate to comic sales. You can have 100,000 followers, they don't all show up to buy comics, and that's the catch there. And so they're trying. They to their credit, I think they're trying to isolate their core titles and play around on the margins with the various imprints. And that's smarter than what by contrast Marvel, that's kind of just forcing a change in the core line. That's a better way to do it. That said, I think we'll do all right. The new Vertigo has been met with a lot of kind of meh. The Sandman imprint, I think there's some interest in, but even there, I'm not seeing people just get really excited about games things deserved, and can't wait for them to come out. That has a lot.
Yeah, that's got what, like 6 comics or more? Neil Gaiman's?
Yeah, the new. I think I'm giving you all the wrong numbers here. It's been a long week. I think 4.
4. Okay.
I may be off.
I wasn't sure. I know it's a group of them though, and it is a little universe, like you're saying, right? Mm-hmm. And he's got different writers and artists. I don't know. You're right. I haven't heard too much hype about it. DC put out the promo video that had Neil Gaiman in it, and I kind of mirrored that, and it got like 500 views, but I haven't heard many people talk about it.
I think because
it'll get
Go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, please go for it, Larry.
No, I was saying like the problem is Sandman had such a once in a lifetime feel to it. It's like this is taking comics and like especially American comics and just making it something other than the quote unquote comic book. This guy, amazing stories, that the slice of life stuff, dealing with topics that most comics don't touch upon. And it was a fantastic run. It had its beginning, middle, and end. And it ended. And then they over the years they did like a couple of books here and there to kind of bring it back. They did that with the Sandman Opus or whatever, the one with J.H. Williams III, or that kind of thing. And I guess I was testing the waters, and now they're doing this, and it's like it's to me it almost feels like what they've been doing with Watchmen, except like Sandman's more of the connoisseur of good fine comic booking, and Watchmen's more of the it's like it's the Total Recall, the Arnie Total Recall. It's like it's a action movie for the quote unquote thinking man's action movie, or for the dumb man's thinking movie. Either way, whatever, like highbrow, but it's not. It's like heads exploding, this and that. It's like it has that feel to it, and like Sandman, I think it's because it's kind of ran its course. That's just how it is.
Well, people look at Sandman a little bit they're looking at it a little bit through rose-colored glasses. If you're talking about the '90s and you had a bunch of Image titles, you have Youngblood #1, and you have these Image books coming out, and you have heroes were born, and when the heroes then were reborn again, and then the X-Men #1 by Jim. You had all these kind of mega titles coming out, and Wizard was promoting them. I mean, you had Sandman there, and it was selling, but it's not like Sandman was a top 10 book back when it was originally being issued. It never was. People look at it and they're like, it's one of the hallmarks because it survived through trades and people remember it fondly, and it's considered artistic, and it is, but it's not like it was a major mover ever. It's always more of an award winner than a major seller. And then the trades sell consistently well year after year, so it has longevity. So if we look back at the last 25 years, yeah, there's been a ton of Sandman sold, but it's not like it was a monthly major seller. It's just something that is built up over time. And the recent attempt, Sandman Overture, was not a top 20 book. It wasn't, and the new one won't be either. It's going to get outsold by whatever's going on in Batman, whatever's going on in the Avengers. Those books are going to do better. And it's you kind of hope it's got some, the trades will be powerful, and it will sell well over time. And you do need just like Deathstroke, you need books that are going to bring in their audience and just have a core following that you can consistently rely on. But it's not. None of these titles that have been announced, maybe the DC Black stuff, but none of the other titles that have been announced are going to be competing with the core line.
DC Black,
in a reasonable way.
So many imprints. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah.
I did want to ask you guys too about the New Age of Heroes books. A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been pretty hyped about them. I've been following them for the most part, but are any of the artists from the first issue going to stick around until the fifth?
I was going to give some heat for that, because that right there, here's the thing. New Age of Heroes, yes, there was somebody on Twitter who was like, oh my god, Damage is good. I'm like, I'm a Tony Daniel fan. Okay. It's like, well, it looks just like DC's version of the Hulk. Oh, no, it's more than that. No, it wasn't. It was not. It was DC's the Hulk, except for 12 of the 20 pages is nothing but double page splashes of him just punching something or doing. Like, I paid $3 for this, and then Tony Daniels bounces after the second issue, and then hey, you got Sideways. It's Kenneth Rockefeller, not Kenneth Rockefeller art, and it's like, hey, this is like a knockoff Spider-Man, and eventually he bounces, and then Silencer. Yeah, he left to do something else. I think I forgot what, but then Silencer and then John Romita's bounce is like, okay, this is kind of like Punisher meets Kill Bill, like that kind of thing a little bit. I guess it's like I couldn't figure out the comparison, the straight comparison to Marvel. But yeah, Spider-Man. You got Hulk, and it nothing happens in the books. They were like nothing really happens. It's like this very thin, and understand they put the artist name first. I'm like, so this is gonna be art driven. But that's about it. That's all it's going to have, and I was right. And this is and then I was actually going to think about picking up that Challenge to the Unknown, and after being kind of burnt by both Damage and by Sideways. I was like, yeah, Silencer was. I was actually kind of digging that until they said John Romita's leaving. I'm like, the dude can draw books like nonstop. He's like one of those guys. Like he's a workman. He's not a fine artist, but he can keep that pace of books. And he's off the book now. I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm done. I know Zercher's coming on, but I was like, I like the consistency in my books. That's what bothered me about Justice League #1. It's like, oh my God, Jim Chung, and he's leaving after the first issue. What the hell? Just get that Jorge Jimenez and do it from the first issue onwards. Don't give me like, I don't want to read a book that has like one artist and then the next issue has like, I hate that. That's why it's irritating. But yeah, this New Age Heroes thing, it's like I'm not. I was like, give them a shot. They had this shot and they missed it, so I'm done. I'm Kaputski.
Even Terrific's Ivan Reis is off it. Like I mean, other than the ones that only have one issue, I think all of them the artist has dropped out already, right?
We're about to, I think. I'm trying to. I know there's one or two. We're talking about this a couple days ago.
Well, Andy Huber, I don't think Andy is going to stick around for more than one issue, like ever, was the plan.
Right.
So, other than that, there's The Unexpected. I don't know who the artist is on that, but he'd be the only one.
Yeah. No, it's a shame. And people do see it as a bait and switch, for sure.
Oh, Sook, right? Is the Unexpected artist?
Ron Sook, yeah.
I hope he sticks around. I mean, they're all great artists.
He's too slow.
Yeah.
Either too slow or too big. But the bait and switch, that's the biggest problem, because it's like you promote the book with these artists and like it's artist driven, and like can't even last half a year. I mean, a lot of these people, it's like there's no commitment in these books anymore. It seems like if the story was only the first like say story was only like 3 chapters and 3 issues long. Have like one artist do that, and then the next story be a different artist. I could deal with that. Now, give me a chapter break. Give me kind of like, pick us up next issue for a new story or something. Okay, fine, whatever. But no, they don't do that. It's like, this is like, what is this? This feels cheap. I feel used.
It's strange that they would even advertise it when they aren't going to be there for more than one book.
I don't think they expected it. I mean, the promotional materials and what they were kind of lining up, it was the artist first. It was going to be an artist-driven in print. Well, not. I mean, it was in the core line, but it was definitely, its own little marketing campaign.
Yeah.
And they were going artist first. And you look at the original hype, and it was definitely. I mean, in fact, there's even a line in there that says,
DC's,
we've got a creator.
Yeah, DC's masterclass of artists. I remember the commercials.
Yeah. The teams you see will be on the title for 6 months to a year. I mean, they called that out as something they were going to do, at least to the shops.
Really?
That just turned out not to be the case.
That makes it so much worse. As a consumer, I didn't know that. I thought it was just circumstance.
Something happened. I haven't gotten the story as to what, but something definitely happened where their plans did not land.
Wow. I don't know.
Could it have been like my just thinking in the back of my head, since the shops are Uber, they're like the Uber consumer hubs. You consume and then you sell to other consumers. But
right.
If the books didn't hit like a certain mark, right? Okay, get these artists off here, get the ringers in. Could that have been the case? Is that possible, or had to hit a certain like order mark for that first issue or something?
It's possible. It's definitely possible. But that would be a pretty quick. That'd be a pretty quick turn. Because some of these guys, I mean, there was 1 issue, 2 issues out the gate, and the person was gone. So that's pretty quick to be pulling the trigger. I don't know. I mean, unless they're cutting it really thin to the order numbers, they wouldn't have enough data on the orders.
Jim Lee only stuck around for 1 issue of The Immortal Men, even though it sold
3/4 in 1 issue, right?
Even though it sold 48,000, so that's pretty good for a New Age of Heroes book.
Half of what Walking Dead sells, though.
Sure, I mean, you can pick a top 10 book out any time, but Walking Dead's not doing so hot compared to where it was.
It was still selling like 80,000 copies last time I checked.
Wow,
Like
really?
every month. It's doing.
It's a top 20 book.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
a top 20 book. It's you know, as a
That's
retailer,
good.
I mean, Walking Dead and Saga and Wick and the Divine are books that you love because they are extremely reliable. I mean, they're like the Deathstroke situation. You got a core audience that buys every month, but that audience is in the 60 to 80,000 range. Just they do really well.
Wow, that's amazing. Because I mean, Domino #1, everyone was hyping that. It had 1 million variant covers, lots of advertising. Didn't it do like 89,000 or so? I mean, 80,000 on issue, like whatever 300 or something. I don't even know what Walking Dead is on, but that's
It's closing in at 180. Yeah.
that's remarkable. Good for them. I'm impressed, to be honest. Those are good numbers.
All three of those books are, and they get trashed again on YouTube channels and other things. But all three of those books they're solid sellers. They sell, you know, the trades. They're perfectly fine. And I think the next big kind of bump that Image will get is as Reminder gets a lot of his movie deals and some of the media stuff picking up, his titles are all going to float upward as well. He's got very consistent teams and good runs and good trades that he's putting out. And
Like
his books are probably going to be the next one.
7 to Eternity, right? Was one.
Yep, 7 to Eternity. Black Science is another one that does well. The Death or Glory is excellent. There's a couple titles he does, but he is doing what Fraction wanted to do, and he's getting the right merchandising and movie deals. Very similar to what Mark Miller has done, and really going to be the things that we're going to be talking about over the next few years.
Well, honestly, I think that Reminder is different. The reason Fraction, I think, you know, he's part of, you know, I'm not mistaken, he's part of the Portland Mafia. You know, those guys with him and his wife and everything like that. Those people, but it's like what he's done compared to what Reminder's done. Reminder is one of these writers. Like, I may not like everything he does, but I can commend him for what he does. Like, it may not be for me, but I can see, like, I see why people like this.
Dude's a good writer.
Yeah, he's a good writer, but Fraction, it's like there is potential there, but it feels squandered. Like, I know, like, everybody loved the Hawkeye book. I hated it. It was like, this is an indie comic at Marvel, and, you know, the whole hey Hawk, Hawk, bro, like stuff, whatever. Hawkeye, and whatever, ha ha ha, funny, and this little meme stuff, pizza dog, this, that, whatever. Like, it's like nothing happens in the books, nothing, and it's boring, and it was like it was delayed and it was boring. I mean, this is like, you know,
Yeah.
I understand why people love that stuff. I didn't.
Remender's great, though. I mean, I'm a DC guy. I don't think he's written really anything for DC, and I would buy a Remender book if I saw it. You know, just pretty much, almost just off his name. I mean, I'd look at it and look at the art and stuff, but yeah, I'm glad he's doing well. Good writing.
You look at his titles. So if you look at Death or Glory, is an excellent book. It is selling well. I mean, the first two issues have done really well, sold out both. Deadly Class does solidly. It's ticking up with the TV show, I think, coming out. That's going to do really well. Black Science is probably the weakest of his right now in the shop, but it has consistent numbers. But every single one of his titles is very different totally. You don't same book every time you pick something up. It's well written, but you don't feel like you're getting preached at. You don't feel like you're getting some kind of, you know, his standard joke. You get a very unique comic each time you pick it up. And that's Fraction. If you read a Fraction book, whether it was Iron Man or whether it was Hawkeye, you could tell it was Fraction writing it. And Reminder is not that typecast. And I think as a result, he's a lot more marketable. He can go shop his property home or wherever he's going, and it feels like a package that they can put on the air. You know, Fraction, it feels like him. And Fraction just comes with a lot of baggage. It's much more difficult to work with.
I haven't read a ton of Marvel, but I liked Remender's Captain America books that he did. I read the trades from the library. I thought he did a good job on those.
Uncanny X-Force as well. That right there, that's a great team book that a lot of people I think overlooked at the time. Not only was his writing incredible, but the artwork, Jerome Pena, this like dude's like this is like like people like it's so weird to look back at it now, and it's like this guy, that Jerome Pena, is a beast of an artist, and it's and then like you look at the rest of Marvel currently, and it's like, oh my god, it's embarrassing. It's like bringing it's like backyard wrestling for like preschoolers, and you bring in like the cyborg Macho Man Randy Savage. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna crush the kids. Yeah, it's like not fair. It's an unfair fight. It's unfair to be compared to that.
It's like the art they have over at Dynamite.
Oh my god, don't get me started like that. Like the Sergio Ciarello. Sergio Ciarello, the guy who did Lone Ranger, and he did the Action Bible book it's like actually a really good book. It's a Bible but illustrated. So it's like a great way of telling stories, like 3 pages. But he's the only good artist they've had over there, because even though like they've had you can say Franco Francavilla because he did that the Zorro book, but that's only 2. That's the only 2 artists on that Dynamite, Dynamic Forces, the people that can license all these projects and properties and this and that, but can't afford to pay a good artist.
That's what kills me, is they licensed so many cool characters. Like after DC, I like the Dynamite characters, but whenever I get a book, the cover's fine, and you look at the art's just, oh man, it's horrible.
Don't never trust a company that has a variant cover that's a photo negative. Never trust those people.
Especially Vampirella was total bait and switch. They had like 8 variant covers for the first issue and cosplay covers and stuff. It's just such trash, And Vampirella is actually a pretty cool character, but the 2016 comic was just terrible, And they've got, like you're saying, the Lone Ranger, Vampirella, the Shadow. Was it Sheena Jungle Queen and all of those Edgar Rice Burroughs characters? And they've got like Green a lot Hornet? Green Hornet. Do they have the Spirit now?
No, I think that is IDW. IDW is
really That's so random.
Well, IDW has Rocketeer. They have Spirit. I think I forget what else. Of course, the Teenage Ninja Turtles and Transformers.
I knew they did the Hasbro stuff.
But yeah, they do all the Hasbro and like Paramount properties, I believe, as well. I think they put out MacGyver and a bunch of other stuff. It's like whatever, but I think no, not MacGyver. Is it Miami Vice? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Stuff I don't read. But yeah, it's like these books, like anything Matt Wagner wrote over Dynamite, it's guaranteed to be good. But the artwork, just prepare yourself for the worst. Like like put your head between your legs, But but DC, like when it comes to DC and the writers, like getting somebody excited for a book. I mean, like Jim Lee at this point now, it's like I can't get excited for a Jim Lee book. And that they said Travis Charest doing a 4. Most people don't know who Travis Charest is. He's just dropped out of like he did his French comics, that Space Girl book. He did amazing stuff back in the day. He used to be a hot property 20 years ago, now or 15 years ago.
Yeah, cover artist for X-Men Red now.
Okay, he's been doing cover art for that? I didn't know. I had no clue.
Yeah, he's the cover art for every issue, and it's good cover art, but you just kind of wonder why. And unfortunately, I do worry. You're just talking about Dynamite. It's where Marvel seems to be going, where they've got some. They've got Alex Ross on the new Hulk. They've got Terest on X-Men Red. You got some really good cover artists, but you flip open that book, and it's a big step down.
Bait and switch, baby. Bait and switch.
Even their Star Wars books, they're hit and miss. Like some are good, some are bad. And that's somewhere where they could really branch out and bring in people that aren't Marvel fans necessarily. Like I picked up a Star Wars book and flipped through it, and I was just kind of like, back on the shelf. Like they needed to hire good colorists too. Like the line work on the book I looked at wasn't even that bad. It was the colors were all wrong.
Yeah, the colors on those books be rough.
Yeah, I'm curious with Star Wars. So is doing that book, and he's clearly tracing. I mean, he's a legitimate artist. The current art for Star Wars is really confusing. I have no idea idea why they're doing what they're doing. I mean, it looks really obviously traced. I mean, it's redeemed any complaint anyone ever had about Greg Land, and it's painful because he's a good artist. I don't know what happened.
Just rushed. I mean, there's a lot of that Star Wars on the shelves.
Yeah. I don't know if it's rushed or it's a style they're curating there. It's embarrassing.
It's more than 6 books, though, right? Like, you've got Poe Dameron and Darth Vader and a couple regular Star Wars books.
Was it Dr. Aphra?
Her.
It's like, who? Like, but if you sold me a Boba Fett book, I'd probably be more interested in that. I know what I'd be getting. Bounty Hunter,
Darth Vader sells good.
Well, Darth Vader's dead, though. Like, you can say Boba Fett crawled out of the Sarlacc pit. There you go. Start the book. First issue, he crawls out of the Sarlacc pit, and then take it from wherever you want to go. Old man Boba Fett.
Half of this stuff takes place before the original trilogy, anyways. So
to me, that limits it. Like, I have no interest in that. It's a prequel story, so it's like whatever. You know.
Oh, I think there's like a Rogue One book too, or a. I don't know. They've
adapted every movie.
Yeah,
but they sell it. I mean, they've got different channels for that. So it's going to the shops, but it's going into. I mean, those are the books that are going to get into retail shops when they do carry comics. I mean, they're trying to push the Star Wars stuff for sure, and so they're going to get higher numbers. And I think that's probably why they're getting Oroka's art and praised. I mean, they're trying to make it look as much as like the movie as you remember. You know, rather than going for an individual style. It's just art is a challenge. I mean, there's just not enough money in comics to lure some of these artists away from career-owned stuff, but they're going to get a much bigger piece of the upside.
Yeah. I mean, why deal with all these deadlines and headaches when you can just draw commissions? Once you're a big-name artist, there's very little draw in doing comics, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Like,
the money's...
I mean, you could use comics as a stepping stone in your career, but once you're a master-level artist, pretty unlikely. I mean, maybe do some cover work.
Not even master level, really. It's a lot of them. It's like they're making money. It's easier because the instant payments via PayPal or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
You can make more money off of doing these commissions. Like, there's a comic artist. He does mainly covers. I'm not going to say his name. I might have said it in the past, but whatever. But he does mainly covers. He does interior work as well. His artwork's pretty good. Not the greatest. People consider him the greatest, but he'll take 3 commissions, $300 a piece each day. No more commissions than that at conventions. So it's 3-day convention. So he's making $900 a day. So $1,800, $2,700. That 3 days, as well as like signing occasionally and stuff like that. But that's it. So he'll sit there. So basically, he's sitting there just signing. And he'll only sign between like 15-minute periods, like 2 or 3 times a day. So he'll be sitting there, and he won't sign for you. And, he'll only sign if you donate money to that Hero Initiative. Which, yes, it might help out people. I don't trust charities. I don't trust any of them. I don't donate. I don't give money. So it's like I saw that, and I kept on walking. I was like, all right, screw you, buddy. I'm keep going. But that right there, he doesn't need to bust his ass and like make interior art. Like he's making what, like one of my first, like 3 or 4 times he's making like one commission that my first car cost. So it's cash he's pocketing. You know, hopefully the tax man never comes after him. He better be filing his taxes properly. But stuff like that, like there's no need to like, and also like they just like I said, couldn't afford them. And like Marvel, they used to pony up. They ponied up millions of dollars for the Image guys, for Lee and Liefeld to do the Heroes Reborn, but that ain't gonna happen anymore. Perlmutter's in charge. I mean, dude, like cut them down like one unisex bathroom, like one piece of, one roll of toilet paper between all of them. It's like, oh, recast Rhodey. They won't tell because you're like what? Like, get a cheaper actor. It's like this is the guy. He's one. People forget he's the one in charge of Marvel, not the movie division, but the everything else.
Yeah.
So a lot of people forget that part. It's like he's very stingy, but DC doesn't have that same excuse. I mean, like I do like the fact that they're utilizing their the Hanna-Barbera connection. You know, like with the Future Quest stuff, which like to see like books like that. Like I mean, that was great. That was to me. I don't know how well that sold, but also the crossovers like that Elmer Fudd Batman book. I couldn't get my hands on it. The store like they were sold out by like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon that day.
That was one of the best-selling books.
Oh God, it was great.
Didn't expect it to. It shot up in value too. It was going for what, $30? Easy.
Yeah, Lee Weeks art. Yeah, it's like I think Tom King wrote it and Lee Weeks art. Like that right there was. That's the kind of like when I think Batman and Batman stories, like especially like one shots. That's what I think of. The Lobo, Wile E. Coyote. That was incredible. But I don't know how well Lobo book would do. Like I know they've done stuff in the past when they had this miniseries and stuff. But like,
yeah, that last grip of Hanna-Barbera books was really good. But this current group, I'm not so sure about. It sounded like there was a lot of political stuff injected in there, like the Aquaman and Jabberjaw one and all that.
Yeah, like
they're down to the B run of characters. I mean, it's all right, but it's the excitement. I mean, they had the initial run. That was the exciting part. They're down to the next rung now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think right now, like the fact that like I remember hearing a launch, well, not launch story, but I think it was around the time of New 52 that. With all these other little imprints and stuff, and he's kind of, I guess you say, what do we call it? Boutique, like little boutique, little imprints and stuff over it. Like, you got now Young Animal and other stuff like that. But sure. Taking unfinished scripts or possible movies and actually turning what would have been a movie into a comic. Like, like you used to do the comic adaptations of movies. Like they had the Jerry Ordway, I think it was Jerry Ordway, the Batman '89, the comic book version of that. There's like the Superman one and other stuff along those lines. But taking like one of the like that Superman Lives and turning that into a comic book, and the only way I can see that work is if you like taking the script and then getting Bill Sienkiewicz to do the artwork, because his artwork's so insane to begin with. It's the only way you can make that insanity look and feel right. But I don't know how well that would sell. I mean, if maybe it was a miniseries, like like 6-issue or something, like make it feel like film length. But like these kind of miniseries and stuff, like as far as your shop goes, Perch, like this miniseries, like are you like, hey, 4, 6, 12 issues, is that okay, or is like you kind of wish that wasn't the case? Like these miniseries are coming out because they're maybe after the first issue, the kind of excitement goes down and they get trade waiters. What is your thoughts on like the miniseries?
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't
specifically Doomsday Clock. Go ahead.
God.
Doomsday Clock is doing fine. I mean, so I think there's three categories. I generally speaking, I don't see people, buy in or buy out if it's a limited series. If the creative team is good and the story is catching, they'll buy in. It doesn't really matter if it's ongoing or not. Marvel swears up and down that that's not true, but you can see it in their numbers. If the story is good, people will buy. For sure, but I think if it's a powerful story, people will get, even though they'll say, and this happened many times, they're going to wait for the trade. They then can't help themselves. So a week later, they're back in. They don't want to wait a year to get trade. And so you get issues like that. The current Mr. Miracle series, the Vision series is that way. People gobbled up every issue. You have Doomsday Clock, which is late, certainly, and there's all kinds of issues, and that one is bringing out. But at the end of the day, you've got Johns and Frank on that, and the Watchmen character. So every month, people come in and complain about the delays and how long it's coming out. Why didn't they wait until they had a bunch of issues in the can before they start offering it? And I agree, that would have been smart. But the issue then sells out consistently.
Yeah, I mean, so I was like that, but I still bought issue 5. They got us.
Guns, man. I stick to my guns. After that first issue, I'm like, nope, this ain't going nowhere. And I was right. Slow burn. Like, first issue Watchmen just hits you right off the bat. And I was like, if you're trying to copy Watchmen. How about this? Like, you know what? If it was more like Watchmen, like more of a ripoff, I'd actually be more interested. It was like slow burn. See where this goes. I don't care. And the comic shouldn't be that much. That right there is like that. Like
$5.
Yeah, $60 total. After what, 20 months? It'll be like 20 months and $60.
Yeah, they already got me for 25 though, so I might as well keep going.
See, that's the thing. It's like, well, and for a penny and for a pound, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. If it's an issue like that, and we saw this with Mr. Miracle. Again, a lot of people online love Mr. Miracle. The people coming and buying those issues they don't know where it's going necessarily. They like it okay, but they also feel like I bought the first 3 issues. If somebody comes in and they buy 2 or 3 issues, then they're in for all 12.
Yeah.
They don't give up.
That's where I am personally.
Most consumers, and I wish, frankly, Marvel and DC would do more of that. I mean, if you're coming out with I don't know, some of the new titles Marvel's launched, or even the Age of Heroes stuff, like if you had come out that Damage was a 12-issue series, you have people sticking around even if the artist moved off and everything else on issue 2 or 3. But it's more likely people are going to drop that, and already are dropping it by issue 6.
No, you're exactly right. I bought issues 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or no, not 5. I bought 1 through 4, and I was in the shop and I saw 5 on the shelf, and I was just like, But if it was an ongoing, or if it was a limited series, like you're saying, maybe I would have gotten it. There's something to
most people like
a complete set.
Exactly. No. People still, even if they're not hardcore collectors, they like to complete the run. They want to feel like they finished, and so I think Marvel and DC should do a lot more limited series. They'd be smart to do it.
I almost always, I just buy. Well, I've been buying the new Age of Heroes because I'm really curious and kind of like it, but I've also been buying usually like limited series, 6 or 12 shots. Like I've been buying the Mr. Miracle. I bought in on Bane Conquest. I bought in on Batman the Shadow. I wanted to buy in on Raven, Daughter of Darkness. Like those little things, you're right. Like I like those a lot more. Ongoings are cool, but especially for me because I can't get to a comic shop all the time, it's hard to jump in at like issue 40 or whatever and try and keep up. So, yeah, I'm totally agreeing with what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it would be smart, and a lot of people forget that, in fact, the publishers themselves, back in the 80s, it was more common that both Marvel and DC would start something out as a limited series and discover the interest was high enough to keep it going. The West Coast Avengers started that way. Huh. It's a good model.
That's really interesting.
I think about this, like limited series, like 4 issues, like when Marvel used to do, like with the X-Men versus Fantastic Four or X-Men versus Avengers, like 1 of 4 and everything. They were pretty cool covers, like Magneto on trial and all that stuff. That was fantastic. I loved it, and I think the idea of doing a limited series, like 4-issue engagement, and then the possibility of more going on, that I think it could really help, especially. You have a beginning, middle, and end. You have a guaranteed end to the story. You don't have like this ongoing, what'll happen, like just building upon, kind of nothing. Like this, there's nothing, there's no resolution. There's just this ongoing plot thread. It's like a soap opera. Like soap operas they're pretty much dead. I mean, like those. I think the longest running soap opera was like what the Guiding Light or Young and Restless or something along those lines. But
I think
the concept's pretty much dead.
I think ongoings, I mean, there's obviously pull lists and stuff, but I think ongoings kind of worked better when comics cost 10 cents each, Yeah. The market
well, even back
now...
then, if the idea is, if you do the inflation calculator, that's only about $1.52. That's what comics should be, like the alternate price. And what Peter Ciametti's coming out with this idea of doing pre-press, like 32-page pre-press floppies, I'm assuming black and white interiors, but you have to buy a minimum of 500. But it'd be like 50 cents per copy, so that's what, $250? If my math is correct. So $250 for 500 copies. So you could sell that book for $2 to $3 and make plenty of profit, because I don't think the shipping is included with that. So the shipping to you and everything. But you could. That means a independent person could make a comic, have it printed up for $250, get 500 copies. Direct sales to stores if the stores are open to that. I know some stores would be like the smaller mom and pop, whatever, the more indie friendly stores, and direct sales to customers like through eBay or Etsy and stuff like that. So to have Marvel charge $5 for Immortal Hulk, Zombie Hulk, which Perch, you pointing out, Dr. Blocktopus.
Oh yeah.
You're going after. I mean, dear
that
God.
got an insane. That got an insane amount of likes. I don't know who retweeted that or what, but that post took off. I don't know. I guess I was surprised. There is some real hatred for that writer right now.
He just does it to himself, though. It's like nothing outright, but it's. He might have. I don't know.
I think he talked about that tweet specifically. I think. Sure, I heard it.
Oh,
the Blocktopus thing.
That would explain.
But yeah, like the DC especially, as well as Marvel. We know we got Perlmutter doing his every little thing. Like he'd probably make people while they're working in the offices donate blood, like hook them up to blood machine, like blood donations, so they could sell the blood.
Right.
But DC, like cheaper paper, like even DC's stock on their paper is like pretty rough around the edges a lot of the time.
Oh,
I'm not a big fan of it. It's the quality of the actual book itself. It's not that great. Even the same damn thing. Doomsday Clock. Like I was expecting like a more higher quality. Like I was kind of actually expecting it to be similar to like when they did the old Watchmen stuff. Remember when they used to have Baxter paper, like the old like the thicker. I was like something along those lines. No, it's just like I didn't see much of a difference.
I'm really glad you brought that up. Yeah. I've been having an issue with that with the newer comics. I kind of wish they'd go back to the newsprint. I don't know. They're really glossy now, right? Like a magazine.
Yep, and any oil on your fingers. And I had this happen with God Help Me. Perfect book to happen to. Frank Thierry, and I read his Weapon X books back in the day, like around that when the Grant Morrison era of X-Men happened. And he's been writing Harley Quinn books. He took over. He's like for a little brief stint, I believe. Somebody else is on there now. But it was the old lady Harley Quinn. I was like, okay, I picked this up as a joke, whatever. I think it was $2, $3, whatever it was. I picked it up, and my fingers, the oil on my fingers, and I'm not a really greasy person, but like the natural smeared the ink on the page.
Yeah,
now, maybe it was a defect on the issue, but this is DC, not like some random independent person who knows what they used. But the paper warps if you have a body temperature above 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yes.
And
this is my biggest issue is the comics, when you get them, they've got kind of a little wave across the top. Like, what the heck? And then if you have any kind of moisture in the air, it absorbs it and it just gets wavier and wavier. Meanwhile, I have newspaper printed comics from the 90s when I was a kid that have been sitting on the shelf this whole time and are just fine. So it
might yellow a little bit, the older stuff, because of the acid, like in the
Sure, I mean, they have flaws, but at least they didn't warp immediately. Like, in the shop, they're on the shelf warping. Like, do yours do this, Perch, or do you ever see that?
Yeah, no, you have to control. Where we are, we have humidity fluctuation where it's not like Florida or anything, but you get rain outside and you get air conditioning. So I mean, you changes in temperature and the pages warp. I mean, we started putting more stuff in bags and boards for the shelf, and just because we were ruining stuff.
So you agree though that it's an issue with the newer comics?
Oh, for sure. No doubt about it. And you see it even more so, with the stock that you have over, you're going to put in long boxes, or you're going to put out for people to thumb through, and you can see the difference in quality between what was published, even 10 years ago. But it's funny you mentioned Baxter paper. I was going through some old Power Pack issues up to the higher format for the direct market. Those titles are those comics are hanging in there. They're about the same as they were 30 years ago. And the new ones are just, there's no longevity to them at all.
Well, do you have this being here in the South? My comic shop is in Wilmington, Memory Lane Comics, 201 Princess Street, Wilmington, North Carolina. Give them a shout out if anybody near the area, go there. They're good people. The store's going to open back up shortly. I think it's already, like I said, open today. If I've read their Facebook correctly. But being in the South, it's humid, it's hot, and I pick my books up from the shelves, like the new releases, and I go back and see if there's anything else, like maybe from weeks prior that I might have missed first, because that happens, like you pass it by, didn't catch your eye the first time, but maybe somebody said something, or like somebody mentions it, you pick it up, just for maybe 5-10 minutes, having the books, like a book, I put my least interested book on my left hand on the bottom part, so it touches my left hand. So if that happens, the back side of the book basically has an imprint. It looks like the device from Total Recall to activate to give free air on Mars. It is because of the heat and moisture and I try not to rub the paper. I pick it up directly because if I don't, it'll smear the oil. The oils will smear the ink. But you go back and like the alternative books, because you have like that old school paper for the cover and then the newsprint interior. Never had a problem with that. Never. So this new stuff, especially the image books are because they use the self covers, the same paper stock on the interior, so you see on the outside. And I think DC doesn't do that, but what they use ain't much better. It's like this gloss. It's like that semi-gloss. I hate semi-gloss, especially when you take a photo of it.
Part of the problem too with the DC books, it's especially on their more expensive ones, like Doomsday Clock. They have that really hard cover. It's like a folder, and then all the pages inside just kind of warp. Like, it's so aggravating, to be honest. But yeah, Alternative's pretty cool. I would buy in if my shop had them. I've been real interested in that Tinseltown comic, but I have a way to get a hold of it.
Yeah, I think they're doing great work. Their content's nice. The price point's nice. They put out really. We carry them. I think they're good books. The cover quality, the paper quality is a problem. I mean, if you buy a stack of books and you carry them from your hands to the register out to your car, and you look at the books, you look the paper in almost all cases. And we have collectors who come in, and they will treat these things like they're bombs, and they're holding them in the most delicate possible way. They get to the register, we're putting bags and boards on them immediately, or if they don't have them already. We'll put like a free kind of comic giveaway at the bottom and the top of the previews, just so if something's going to get ruined, it's not comics. And people know this. If you buy comics regularly, you feel it, and it is. I mean, it sucks. And if the price tag was going down, I think people would understand. But when the price of Marvel's moving everything up to $5 and who's moving their prices up, there's just no tolerance for that. That doesn't drive people out of here.
Yeah, and in my opinion, if you're spending $3 or $4 or $5 and up on these things, you might as well be a collector for all intents and purposes.
It should be worth collecting. That's the biggest thing. You're paying $5 for issue 3 of some Marvel book, and at the end of the day, is it worth that? The artwork's, I mean, it depends on your taste, but my personal taste, like, it's trash. The writing's not good. The editing, somebody screwed up and forgot to do something, like the editor wasn't doing their job. That ain't worth that. I mean,
I have that issue too. Like, I tried to warn so many people not to buy, or I didn't tell them not to buy it, but I tried to tell people about the Fourth World Omnibus having print errors in it. Like, goodness gracious, the things they let get through nowadays, unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen tons of people on Twitter and Facebook and stuff. They post like, "Oh, I got the new Omnibus Fourth World," and they're really excited. And I don't tell people after they've already bought it. They'll find out. But I tried to warn people. It's just like, come on, DC, get your head in the game. This is a big deal. The Jack Kirby Fourth World Omnibus is probably their biggest omnibus, at least for the year, maybe and longer.
Something told me not to buy it. Something. Maybe it was a spirit of Jack Kirby saying, "Don't buy it, kid."
Yep. I think he talked to you in a dream, as he talks to me in my dream.
I kid you, I actually had a dream about Jack Kirby many years ago. I was actually sitting on this the couch was like a brown couch, and it was in like it looked like it was a basement, but outside there was a double door window, like the double window, kind of a double door, like the sliding glass doors, and there was like a pool out there, but it's like real nice, pretty outside, but inside was like kind of dark and gloomy, and it was at this couch that felt like it had years of cigarette smoke kind of like on it, like kind of felt kind of sticky and nasty, but I didn't care. And like there's Jack Kirby there drawing, and I'm like just like this is cool, Jack, and he's like looked over and he's like drawing. I'm like, this is cool, like this is great, and then like I woke up and I was like, that's awesome. But yeah, it's like that's
the best dream.
Yeah, it is. Like I mean, it could be better. It's like, here you go, kid. Here you go, draw better.
Yeah, right.
I don't know, but it's like, but yeah, like the way they screw up on that stuff, and I understand that with out of continuity tales, like Doomsday Clock, the whole do it, like have the pretty much the thing done before you solicit it. Like that should be a case all over. Like don't count your chickens before they hatch. But I don't understand you got to start the promotion process. But you don't start the promotion process until it's basically done. Like you can stretch, like have it on the shelf for a little bit. I mean, I know DC's got plenty of books that haven't published. I mean, they got that. Well, from other reasons, but like they can put stuff on the shelf, whether it's OGN and stuff like that. Like that Swamp Thing '88, the one where Swamp Thing goes back in time, ends up as being the cross that Jesus is crucified and has a conversation with Jesus. Which at this point in time, just publish it. It's not going to be offensive at all, in this modern world. But they'll never publish that Wonder Woman graphic novel with Justiniano art. The guy was, with the flash drive full of child porn. Dear God, like that. It's like stuff like that. That'll never happen. But
didn't he do an Identity Crisis cover or Infinite Crisis?
He did Infinite Crisis tie-in. He actually did
Day of Vengeance.
Yep. He did.
I remember that because I posted the cover, and you're like, that artist got caught for all kinds of horrible stuff. And I was like, I didn't know that. That's really horrible.
But yeah, it's like stuff like that. I mean, like that right there. I can't really separate the art from the artist at that point, especially when it's like, it's not like, oh, he was framed. No, he put photos on the wrong flash drive. So if he hadn't done that, nobody would have called him. So good thing he screwed up and he fumbled that ball. But but when it comes to DC now currently, and if I had to choose between the two, between Marvel and DC, I'd be more DC. But I mean, they really got to step up their game. They kind of got to step up. I feel like the quality and the content, because to make it stand out more. And it doesn't. They got all these great artists on payroll, but you don't really see them being utilized. You see a lot of the and I'm trying not to make it too disparaging in the way it is. The ringers, like these. They're workman artists, but they don't put no effort into it. Like I became a big fan of Sal Buscema because he did the Bomb Space Knight back in the day, and like I became such a fan is when I was reading. I read the entire series. I'm reading it, and I'm like one go. I'm loving it, and then Steve Ditko shows up, or somebody else shows up as well.
Oh,
like it felt like such a disappointment because I got so used to Sal Buscema. I was like, oh no. And it's like, even though Sal's like nothing really to write home about, but it's like I got used to it. It's like but it's all about that, staying with it, and not bailing out and jumping ship or being transferred to something else 2 issues down the line. Like what's the point of getting hyped about a book? It's like it at that point just have like 3 or 4 artists work on every single issue, like pages 1 through, like I used to do back in the day, pages 1 through 4 by this artist, 5 through this. Like I hated that. And it's basically happening now. So,
it is, and I think, but there's a thought process in the business that's strange, and I don't know why. But I mean, you look at Hal Jordan's title with Green Lantern, and you're getting this random assortment of artists. Now, granted, they're shipping more frequently, so that's part of the reason. You have Van Sciver on, and then you have a completely different artist, and a different artist, and then Van Sciver's back again, and a new artist. And it's incredibly confusing for people who are buying because of the artist. They're basically having to kind of try and understand what's coming. It's hard for the shop to kind of manage that, to be able to get pre-sales. And as a reader, I can't stand it. I want a story arc to be the same creative team and not have a change. I hate the new style of having an event be 5 or 6 artists. I can't stand that. But it is definitely that is what the business thinks should happen, and that's the way we're living in right now.
It's really unfortunate that's the case, because I think that really erodes consumer confidence in the product, and it makes me sound like, you know, I'm a board member, but really that's how it is, and it's boiling it down to, you know, simpler terms like that. Because if you are picking up a book and like excited about this book, and then the artist changes out within 2 issues, and after then the artist that picks up does like 3 or 4, but then they start rotating people out like every other issue, it becomes a point like especially if the story is mediocre to, you know, like it's okay, it's good, not really, maybe it's kind of sort of, so it's not like it hasn't really hooked you, but the combination of good writing and the art, and, you know, like even decent writing can like bring you back more and more, like to keep you going. But if the artwork's all over the place, like, kind of what's the point? That's the way I look at it, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other people like that.
Oh man,
there was a time where people believed that Spider-Man or Justice League or the X-Men, the cast of characters was so strong that you could swap out the artists and it would be okay because the character's still in the book. And there's some truth to that, but at the same time, if you look at the classic runs of any of those teams or those books, I mean, you had Romita on it for 30, 40 issue run. You had Byrne on it for a run that long. You had you have these very long creators, Silvestri and Lee.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know any book by the big 2 that goes more than 6 issues before they're swapping the artist.
Probably Mr. Miracle.
Yeah, Mr. Miracle. Sorry, limited series. Yes.
Mitch Shreds, but yeah, it's not many for sure.
I mean, look at it now. Like the longest continual artist, like from issue 7 onwards, is Charlie Adler on Walking Dead. You know, the dude's been doing it for 170 some odd issues or whatever. And, you know, and I think the main reason he's able to do that, he doesn't draw at standard 11 by 17 size. He does like 8.5 by 11. Draws like the actual page size, because like this isn't like over the top superhero stuff you gotta do. He's just doing like the biggest thing he'll do is like a splash, and that's it. You know, and it's this, but I guess it's easy for him to draw that because he can do it normally. It's a size of half of a standard comic page. I think
Savage Dragons got him beat for ongoing though.
Well, okay,
yes,
yeah. Oh yes, yeah. Well, as far as that, yeah, definitely. That's the right artist. Yeah. Well, as far as like.
Larson's found ways to keep himself entertained, apparently.
Well, yeah, apparently so. It's like, hey, remember when you were crawling out of you get chewed up by the devil, or crawling out of the devil's ass, or whatever happened? Now it's turned into full blown hentai.
Pretty much. But, I mean, that's really the only way you can describe it. It's, I don't know. It's a weird way to go.
It's like, you know what? It's that I have to say is like that issue. The one issue I did read was the quote unquote Trump issue. And that was hilarious because like this is fantastic. This is great comedy. I don't think it was meant as comedy, but to me it was comedic. It was just so over the top. But I'm glad that most DC doesn't get into that for the most part. Like, trying to make it like, make things political and everything. But things will always be that to an extent. But there are books that they've done that I wish more people would have read, like the Omega Men book. That was a fantastic book. But that was like one of the few gems of the New 52.
Was that Tom King or not?
Tom King, yeah. But they had one ringer. They had a ringer come in like issue 6 or 7, and it's like, oh, they just ruined the perfect run. They were batting 1,000, now they're batting like 820 or something like that. I don't know. Yep. Yeah, it was really, really. It's unfortunate, but
so, do you think this may not be ideal for comic shops, but do you think more people are going to start going the Kickstarter route for purchasing comic books?
I personally don't. So I don't think so. I think you're going to have a series of them come out. You're going to have definitely Kickstarters get set up to get the production done. It's not the ideal way to distribute. So it's a good way to get the comic out and protect your backers. But really, the in play has to be you get the money in, you get a comic produced, you then get that comic somewhere into shops somewhere. I don't think it's going to be. It's not going to be the complete distribution model because you just have to be raising a lot more money to get it to start doing that regularly. And frankly, even though a lot of people have gotten hyped about it, even the two that are going out with Skivers and Myers Kickstarters, it's not enough people to be a major publisher. They're raising a lot of money. So I'm not taking away from that. It's just they've got to get into 20,000 copies sold, 30,000 copies sold. That's really where they want to be playing. And so to do that, either they're going to have a huge distribution network themselves, because there's no value in that, and they need a lot more money, or they raise a Kickstarter for the content and then they find a publisher and don't piss the publisher off this time and actually get the comic out themselves.
So you're essentially going to always need a publisher one way or another once you get to a certain size.
You need something. Now, I think Amazon's print on demand is a model. I think there will be other ways to go do it, but there's no really. I think even I don't remember who it was, Van Skyvermeyer, one of them was saying, you're trying to come out and become the next Boom or Boomy Press. I mean, that is a losing proposition. If you're going to try and become one of those. No, it takes a very, very different discipline of people with skills and everything else.
Yeah.
Not a winning rate.
Okay. Interesting. It's still a good way to support like an individual book, probably, but it's not gonna take over the publishing.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, sorry. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's a very viable way to fund comics and get things done. And if you have a personality and you can get a crowd and you can get money into it, I mean, more power to you if you want to do that. But instantly, okay, you got the money, you got the comic done, you got people paid, you got your backers, whatever you promised them, and then the content needs to go somewhere. And whether it's your digital or it's digital print on demand, like what Amazon's doing, or if it's find a publisher that's going to take the book, you got to have that end game in mind. Nobody's doing a Kickstarter specifically to create a comic company now. Okay. I know that Myers mentioned that with but you're not giving money for him to become a publisher. You're giving money for that comic and that content in theory going somewhere.
Right.
Being an actual publisher.
He didn't promise to become a publishing company. Some people kind of decided that he was going to, but he never actually said that.
Right. Yeah, no, that's not the. And that's where, I hate to use the term because a lot of people have used it, but when people say you don't know how the industry works, yeah, I mean it's a complex, hard industry to wrap your head around, and it's also one that's changing. I mean, it's for somebody to come in and disrupt it in a major way. Maybe Amazon's going to do more of that, or maybe Netflix is going to do more of that. It needs disruption. So, going and being a publisher right now.
Even digital sales, from the numbers I was able to find, like on Comic-Con, the dollars has kind of leveled off from like 2014 on. Because I was just assuming that I knew print was in decline. I mean, that's obvious, but I figured digital was picking up the slack. Even when it was growing, it wasn't picking up the slack by a long shot. So the amount of print decline is greater than the amount of digital increase in sales. So that's like a big gap there that's just not being filled. Is just less interest in comics. And no, I mean, that doesn't even make sense because the movies do so well. It's this weird disconnect.
Movies are whole beasts. They're different beasts, though. You can't really say, like, the movies. Yeah, they make a lot of money, and like you look, it's like the lifeblood of the industry. Like when 2008, you go back and look at the sales of 2008. Like the first Iron Man came out. Sales were they great? oh, compared to the early 90s,
Right.
or late 80s or mid 80s and this and that. But you look at the sales then and look at the sales now, 10 years later, and it's kind of depressing. It's not pretty, to look at the sales difference. I mean, yeah, granted, are the numbers 100%? No. But I'm pretty sure they're more right than they're wrong. And to see the differences, the Marvel, DC, and everything else, Walking Dead didn't have the numbers it does now. But yeah, this is like the difference is like night and day. Like they were much better then. So I think the more well known the better movies are doing. The comics haven't really. There's no. I don't like. That's kind of what we discussed last time in PERCH Talk. Was like there really ain't much of correlation. It's like. Yeah, the movies do better, and then the comics. You think the comics would too? Like more people come in, but what they see in the movies and what they read in the comics, it's like the movies are much like you're never going to get Demon in a Bottle from Disney. You're never going to get the true Armor Wars. You can't because it's got to tie into what else is going on in the Marvel universe. You can't have these intimate stories in the Marvel universe. Everything's got to tie into something else to one degree or another, whether that's majorly or minorly. It's like you can't get a Kraven's Last Hunt when you have Iron Man on speed dial. You know what I'm saying? You can't. Like, how great would that be? Kraven burying a young man in a grave and then running around in the Spider-Man costume. They'd play that for comedy, like, yeah, you're not Peter, that kind of thing or whatever. They'd have to because that's what they do.
People do bring that up too in different movies, even as good as the MCU is. Like.
They'll never be as good as comics. That's the way I am.
Sure, but like they already bring that up. Like, why don't you call the Avengers when it's Ant-Man or something? So it is kind of hard for them to ever get away from that.
But it's they're very
like the Winter Soldier. You have SHIELD all infiltrated and all these helicarriers and stuff. Maybe call the Avengers. No, okay. I guess you got it. It's all right.
Yeah. No, it's a money factor too. I mean, they're not apples to apples, but you do have, and we just had this experience. Somebody come into the shop and says, I watched Infinity War, and I paid $6 for a ticket. I'd like some Avengers comics, and the parent is there with the kids, and the parent is like picks up one comic that's $4.99. It's like, this was the movie ticket. For this one book, and then she kind of wiggles the book, which always irritates me. Like, this is super thin. There's just a few pages here.
Yeah.
And I'm going, yeah, I guess. I mean, you buy 2 of those, and that's going to be more than the price of your ticket. And so there's, people who come in for the movies are doing that analysis in their head, and they're also opening it up and they're seeing an unrecognizable team. This was during the no surrender time, so they're opening up, and it's like, I don't know who any of these people are. Why is, who is this pink-haired girl in the Iron Man outfit? This isn't what I saw in the movies. And it's costume for $5. They're not the same thing. And it problem.
So as a retailer, then, would you say the price point, the cover price on the comic, is that holding you back? And if so, is that the biggest thing holding you back from selling more comics?
It's the price tag definitely holds back quality even more, because I do think people come in and they'd be willing to pay more if they felt like they were getting some kind of director's cut or some kind of specialized piece of merchandise that was really well done.
Okay.
Like, think about it this way: if you go to the book, you go to the movie, you go into Target and you get this hardcover, the Art of Star Wars. You open it up and they've got this premium book where you got conceptual drawings and other things, and somebody cared about the product that's going onto the shelf. And the comic books, they're expensive, and that you're seeing Maroka's weird movie tracing. That's wow.
Okay. So is there something bigger that would be, a hindrance to being a comic book shop aside from the price?
Yeah, I think, we talked about before, Larry, the marketing is poor. Diamond is always a complete nightmare. But, the biggest thing is, I think A lot of people have commented on this, and unfortunately on both sides, the people who are in the industry and the people who are railing against the industry, there is this belief, and you hit upon it, that the comic shop is about to become Blockbuster Video, that its day is nearly up. We're in the 11th hour. Print will be dead soon, and it's really just kind of a relic, like the arcade in the big town that still has pinball machines. This is something that is for old people and collectors, and it's about to die. And so care a little bit less about it. We don't need to worry too much about marketing. The people who go there are angry, racist, whatever it is. And the fallacy there is digital is not picking up the speed. Digital is not what it is in Japan and other countries. The content is not going other places. Scholastic is very healthy, with a small handful of comics and graphic novels, that are going to kids. But that's not saving the industry. And
perhaps
generally
libraries
speaking,
too. I know they buy some trades.
Libraries buy some. The big brick and mortar, the Barnes and Nobles, the Amazons. I mean, you can get the content, but it's not healthy. And it is a lot of the content being sold through those channels are legacy books. The graphic novel is a culmination of 20, 30 years of IP that came out through floppies. So I'm not saying the floppy in the comic store won't die. I mean, invariably, everything dies. At least, that's what New Avengers taught us. But eventually, everything dies. And, I don't want to just keep the dinosaur alive for no apparent reason, but there isn't a replacement. I mean, you do need... If comics and floppies and local comic shops are going to disappear, there has to be something else for people to go to. And it just really doesn't exist right now. It hasn't shown up yet.
Yeah, we're at this weird point in, I think, the history of comic books where, well, at the very least, it's a huge transitionary period where the distribution is going to have to change one way or another. But it's kind of a painful time, too, I don't know. It kind of sucks. I didn't want this to be so negative, though.
Well, I don't think it is. I mean, it's a bitter truth. It's a really bitter truth, but a lot of people don't want to face it. It's like, like you say, oh, things are great, and then you have other people. It's like, we don't need the shops. I raised my money on my crowdfunding. I already got my comic. We don't need shops. I'm doing great sales. And it's like those kind of people, and I'm not just talking I'm not talking just about who you think I might be talking about. There's some other people too, and it's like I can be with the alternative coming out and saying, like with Peter Ciametti saying, would anybody be interested in doing this whole 50-cent comic? I'm like, yes, I could actually see myself doing floppy books and not being a hardliner against floppies that are like ongoing floppies. I mean, not I'll do floppies here and there. But mainly not one-shot stories.
As a collector, you kind of want to go for floppies, right?
Well, the thing about it is, I'm looking at not hardcovers. I'm looking at trade paperbacks now, that are like $50, $60 because they're out of print and they'll never go back into print because when like a lot of stuff, even if it ain't $50, $60, it's just hard to come by. Like my Cyberforce, the 10 Men of War by Mark Silvestri, the first 4 issues of Cyberforce will never be reprinted because they lost or the negatives were not kept in proper order. Yeah. And so so the original artwork and the original colors and all this, it's gone. Forever. Time is gone.
But in general, as a general rule, though, I mean, trades essentially lose value. There are those rare examples that don't get reprinted. But I mean, look at Ollie's. They were just essentially throwing away so many trades for under $5. I mean,
but at the end of the day, when it comes to trades and when it comes to floppies, as far as collectability, the collector's market is, to me, if I could change one, if somebody said, would you keep or destroy the collector's market, get rid of it forever, I'd get rid of the collector's market. Because it's like stuff like that. It's like, hey, this shop, you have to order 50, hey, Perch, you want this, you got a customer that wants this book? Here, order 50 copies of book nobody wants except one person wants that. So you're stuck with a bunch of books. So either you have to get that, they get that person to pay for those books up front to get that one variant or whatever.
That is unfair, Yeah. I don't think they should force people to buy anything. And if it's a good product, you shouldn't have to.
Pay premium. It's like, hey, you want this one cover? Pay $25. Hey, customer, you come into my shop, you want that cover? Pay me $25 and I'll buy it. You know, pay prepay. None of this. I'll pay you on a Tuesday stuff. No. You pay me right now. No negotiating. But
there's such a thing as a healthy collector's market and an unhealthy collector's market. I mean, a healthy collector's market is one where it's like we were talking about limited series before. You get people hooked on 2 issues of an LS, and they want all 12 because they want the set. That's a healthy collector's market. Or you want to, yeah, that's fine. That's good. It's actually, that's profitable. We love it. The unhealthy collector's market is the strange incentives that are used to game the numbers, and that's not really collector's market anymore. That's just how can you manipulate the math, and that's why the comic shops all have these Facebook groups and these other places where there's a lot of different sources where we try and figure out how we can game the system, for lack of a better word, where we can order certain quantities in certain areas and kind of get back at some of the publishers who are making us order. I mean, but it's that becomes a battle against you and the distributor and the publisher. That has nothing to do with the actual collector's market, who are people just wanting to come in and get an issue. The speculator market is, I mean, it exists, but it's very quiet. I mean, that is a much quieter game. The real battles between yourself and the publisher.
I think the overall demand for comic books is so low, it's hard for them to speculate, you know. You're only selling 50,000 of the things to begin with, so, like, the only people who are interested, it's already such a low number. I don't know. It's weird. I think that's another thing, too, with those of us on comics Twitter and stuff. We all kind of get into this world where it's like comics and Twitter drama and everything is like the whole world. But then I'll even go within that same world to just another part of it, like Facebook comics talk conversations or like Reddit instead of Twitter. And, you know, it's this whole, I don't know, sometimes we get our blinders on and just focus on certain things, if that makes sense. Like, there's a lot more to it than I think people often focus on.
For sure. No, I mean, as we've said it before, the comics Twitter world is on all sides, creators, pros, fans. That is an insignificant part of the audience that actually shows up in the shops. It's completely different from other social media. The dynamics of Twitter is much more ego-driven. It's, on the creator side, it's much more cliquish. It's much more ego-driven. On the fan side, it's about likes, it's about stars, it's about trying to raise money in their own channels. I mean, it's a you don't hear that stuff by and large in the shop, and whenever you do, it worries me. I mean, I've posted about that. Whenever Twitter drama comes into the shop, which is incredibly rare, it's always a big red flag that something's horribly wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's so interesting too how little of this stuff actually spills over into real life. And often when it does, it's not even really the case. Like, they'll take something that happened in real life and say it was caused by Twitter drama, but it's just something that happened, you know?
Right.
So, yeah. I don't know. It's a weird little world.
It is. I mean, the good news in all this are there are a lot of comics being produced. There's most likely something for everyone. I think that people should try and lighten up at least a little bit, and that not everything is the end of the world. Yes, the creator said a mean thing on Twitter. It doesn't mean the whole industry is falling apart and you have to go to war with them. You can. Has gotten so derided, but the comment of if you don't like it, don't buy it. That sounds very angry and aggressive, and it's usually used as an insult. But if you take it without emotion, yeah, I mean, nobody's buying everything anyway.
Right.
So if Mag's Visage really irritates you on Twitter, he is easily avoided. I mean, you can very easily go into a comic shop and have a non-Mag experience, because those titles don't sell very well. So it's really no big deal to get so out of shape every single day. Find the comics you love. There are.
at a certain point, it's like, why are you making yourself angry? Just unfollow this person if it bothers you.
I've told you that, and you don't listen to me.
Well,
I told others that. I try to be a man of, like, me, Mr. Psychopath, me being a man, like, when I'm the voice of reason, you know things have just gone all tits up. Because
I know.
It's like, because you're like, look at me, I'm wrestling some jimmies, and I'm like, what are you doing? Just leave it be. Why go kick the hornet's nest? Kick the hornet's nest when those hornets stung me. All right, I'm gonna kick it. I'm gonna set it on fire. Yeah. No, it's like, don't, like, either you go all the way or you don't go at all. Like, you know, because I was going for a while. I was going all the way, and it's like, got bored, so whatever. But
well, it's always like this balance. You know, you have to draw attention to yourself to grow an audience, but you don't want to do anything too crazy to draw attention to yourself. So
be true to yourself, though. If you're true to yourself and grow it that way, fine. But if you're being somebody you're not, and it goes for like, hey, with the whole Vertigo announcement, I know what they were doing. I understand what they were doing. It's like, how can we, you know, like, it's like, it's bringing attention. It's, you know, quote unquote, there's the celebrity writer, like creators, or whatever.
Right.
And
they always criticize the other side, for so to speak, for fake outrage. The Vertigo thing, yeah, it's dumb, but talk about fake outrage. Oh man, half of us had to look up who we were outraged about. Like, who is this Zoe person? I'm not a gamer, really.
Well, it's like with the whole, and also like it comes down to, I just didn't mean to go this route, but when it comes to Gamergate, Comicsgate, whatever, move the needle, this, that, whatever. They've been fighting Gamergate for 4 years. That's 2014 to now.
Wow.
Guess what? Nothing has changed. These people are still in the industry. Mass Effect ain't what it once was. The new Gears of War game is, you know, strong female protagonist. The game. It's no joke. That's what it is. The new the Tomb Raider games used to have big-breasted Lara Croft, you know, with her.
Oh, I know. Even the one in the movies is like some kid. I was like, man.
Well, no, it's Alicia Vikander. It's Alicia Vikander. She's not even British. She's Dutch, and basically now that with the Tomb Raider, it's like, to make a strong female protagonist, they got to beat her up, cover her in mud, and nearly have her get raped every game. That's the game. That's the strong female protagonist. Like, you can't have a woman just kick ass anymore. She's got to be beaten up, and all this whole horrible stuff happen to her. And people think we're fighting a good fight. You guys are impotent. It's like you're throwing rocks at a castle, and the people in the castle just pointing and laughing at you. Like, we're in the castle, you're covered in mud, throwing rocks at us, and it's just bouncing off. It's like, that's why you got to go do your own thing. DC's going to do what they're going to do. Marvel's going to do what they're going to do. And if you want good comics and you have an idea and you have artistic talent, go and do it your own self. And if you don't, then go back and there's the comic that idea. Like, there's a person that DC Fans United brought up to me and didn't know who George Perez was.
Yeah.
He calls himself, like, you know, one of these arrogant names, like, you know, whatever. So maybe being facetious, but didn't know who George Perez is. There are people that don't know who these artists and creators are. Like, hey, have you ever heard of this book? No, I haven't. Because they only know what people on YouTube roast videos and this review of.
Yeah.
They know more about Squirrel Girl than they know about American Flag, Nexus, dear God, a Madman.
See, he thought I was talking about Michelle Perez because he'd never heard of George Perez.
That's what scares me.
Yeah.
We have people who intentionally or unintentionally are writing the future currently, and what are they writing it with? The blood of bad comics, and people are taking these people's words as gospel. They can't think for themselves, and it's like, you know, what do you want to do? Like, hey, man, you got a large audience. You need to educate these little savages so they don't come out, you know, like just, you know, attacking people left and right. Like, hey, I have problems with George Perez at times. I had that little incident with him years ago, but I can still appreciate the guy's artwork.
You know who he is, at least, you know.
Exactly.
I mean, that's why I don't do drama on my channel, you know. If you look at it, it's all just comic book stuff.
But that's the thing. Like, it's drama makes money. That's the problem.
Does. That's why I've spent like a year and a half probably, and I'm almost up to 1,000 subscribers. Or I could just complain about Star Wars and Twitter all day and get like 1,000 subs a day.
Well, it's
Crazy.
a little harder than that, I think, but still, it's like it'd be a lot easier path. But like, it's just disappointing.
I don't know. I think, you know, I'll start doing videos at some point. It's just going to be all just really mean, just horribly mean, racist content. That's what it's going to be. I won't read the comics.
Your icon. I'm gonna put your head on Goebbels. I'm gonna put the poo on Goebbels.
I think we need.
That's all
we need a comic perch channel. I would put it in my recommended channels for sure.
The thing about it is, like, I really. Go ahead. Sorry. I'll shut up.
No, people. I write too much, so a video would be a good thing for me because I ramble on and on and on. So that'd be a better way to go with it.
That'd be cool.
Even if you're able to just do like record the audio and then just like, you know, slap a single image up there or something. I don't know. Like, honestly, I could just snort short snippets and stuff like that. I mean, like you know, it's disappointing that you have so much to like when you like. I don't know if you noticed this, but when Perch says something where he holds both sides accountable, people that are, you know, pro the anti-SJWs and whatever, whatever, you're going to look at SJW, anti-SJW, whatever. When you hold both sides, you know, asses to the fire, you know, you notice like there's like a lack of interactivity. But when you're like you're throwing some heat, but it's true heat. It's not like, you know, you're just trying to like play one side against another. You know, you see these people that come out and, you know, in droves. It's like they want to hear what they want to hear. They don't want to hear like we want new and varied and diverse ideas. The diversity of thought, they'll say, and then when you have diversity of thought, like that didn't happen. That didn't happen. I disagree with that. That didn't happen. And it's like they ignore it. But I really think that could help.
People want to.
People are. You know, they do, and people love hyperboil. I mean, it is, and on both sides, and it is no side like hear this about themselves, but you got one side screaming about Nazis, you got another side screaming about SJWs. It's not, the tactics are not terribly different between the two. They're both pretty gross. They're both overgeneralization. You know, and so maybe, you know, you're more comfortable with one or the other, but both sides see themselves as, you know, they see the label for what it is wrong, but they have no problem kind of casting it the other group, and it's not productive. I mean, in the end, it's a lot of heat back and forth, and, you know, things just keep trucking along the way they are, which is not terribly good. So there's got to be some actual solutions. I've got to believe most people want to be entertained, want to read a good comic. They're here for a reason. They want to have something they can like. So pushing for that is healthier, but a lot less money in that.
Yeah.
Well, I think honestly, the future isn't written. You know, as far as the comics goes and everything. And like these people, like for many years, like all the print media is dying. Like nobody wants to pay $1 for a newspaper when you can read it online. Comics are different, you know, but there is hindrances here and there. But if like and the insanity of saying stuff like, oh, newsprint is more expensive than the glossy paper. If this newsprint was cheaper, then, you know, like we'd stayed with it. Like, no, like you people got embarrassed that it's on newsprint paper, and you wanted, you know, like higher quality stock and this and that. Like higher quality stock does not make any difference if the art on the paper sucks. You know, if the art's okay, mediocre, it doesn't matter what it's printed on. Like, I mean, dear God, it could be printed on tissue paper, you know, like they're going to make no difference. But if we can lower the prices, if we can increase the, you know, like the quality of the stories, the creators, like, and use who you have. And if you're not going to, like, I'm willing to, it's going to suck. And we talked about it the last time you were on Perch, you know, and about like Barry Windsor Smith, which funny enough was actually his birthday. It turned into like, when we finished wrapped up, it's like the next day was his birthday. I was like, oh, that's great. Well, we're summoning the birthday of Barry Windsor Smith. But like, you know, these creators that have not gotten work, and apparently Chris Claremont did I think he did a Black Panther story recently. I think, or something along those lines. No, Kitty Pryde story. Kitty Pryde and Colossus for that wedding thing.
Oh man, X-Men Gold. I wanted that.
I think so because it came up. I was like, oh my god, what?
Yeah,
I didn't know he did
that. I tried to buy that, but it was sold out.
Yeah, it was a wedding issue.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. Wedding special.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, I think the two of them are actually going to get married. So that's the wedding we're getting this year. We're getting the Kitty Colossus wedding. There's zero chance we're getting the Batman Catwoman.
One cat.
You got to go all in that one.
Right.
One cat's becoming a house cat this year, right?
Exactly.
Kitty, Catwoman.
Talking about hyping a comic, that whole wedding.
That's horrible.
That one. Oh my goodness! Every comic has that ad for it too.
And you know it's not happening. It's
almost as bad as Bendis is coming.
Bendis is coming.
Bendis is coming. It's like, stop threatening me. He's coming.
Oh God! Speaking of that, I'll talk about this real quick before the whole Batman Catwoman.
DC Nation, right?
That DC that first one, the Zero, the one with the stories, because I hadn't read that one. It was free on Comixology, and I was able to get it at my shop and everything. But I read that one, that Joker story. I hate the Joker. I want the Joker to. I've hated the Joker for a long time. It just made me hate the Joker even more, and also it's a waste of the art by Clay Mann.
The Tom King.
I'm a fan of the guy's work, and Tom King wrote it, right? Yeah. But it's just, it was such a waste. And then the Bendis Perry White story featuring Superman.
The Jose art though, just the art made it worth it to me.
Okay. Yeah, but then Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez is so wasted on it. And it's like, no, don't team him up with Mr. Wordy. And then this had to be intentional. It's like, our new hire, and then it's a black woman, and I'm like, of course it is. I can't not see that. And then that the Snyder and all that, the Justice League Entropy and Mystery with all that stuff. But
the No Justice.
The No Justice tie-in or whatever. But it was like, I'm glad I didn't pay nothing for it. And then that next one, I was like, okay, more stories or whatever. I'm like, okay, I might have a little interview section. It was like a horrible, crappy version of Wizard. It's like Wizard magazine got dredged up for modern day. That's what it was like. I was like, all right, I'm glad I skipped through most of that. I was like, I'm not going to bother.
I had a much less negative reaction to it.
So of course you did.
Because I do to everything compared to you, or why?
Well, compared to me, yeah, you're like Mr. Positive over here.
True. But I mean, it was only 25 cents. And I actually, that story at the end, the No Justice one, that actually made me want to read No Justice, because I'd skipped it. And I thought that was all right. And Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez, like, worst comes to worst, just take those Superman panels out and stick them on your wall. Like, that was worth it for me. But that first story was a little wonky. I didn't really understand it entirely. I mean, I understood it, but like, why? Like, the Joker holds a guy hostage and acts crazy. Like, obviously the invitation isn't going to come to his house, and then he just kills the guy, and that's the whole story, right?
Yeah, it's a non-story.
Is a Joker character study really needed at this point? I mean, that's the Joker is crazy and insane, and we're getting kind of an insight into insanity. I mean, again, that's been dug through. How much now? I mean, I don't know that wasn't a new story that needed to be told. It's been told a billion times now at this point.
Yeah, it was.
But that is Tom King's MO.
It was just kind of an ugly little story too. It wasn't anything pleasant about it.
Right.
Even the father was a terrible person. Like, he was willing to give his daughter.
It was a.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I didn't like that story, but the Bendis one I liked a lot better than the Action Comics 1000 story he did. I didn't think it was terrible in this one, so it was like a 2 out of 3.
It felt like, but if your expectations are set that you're getting a 25-cent issue, and you're getting kind of a teaser of comics coming up. And that's how I looked at it. I didn't. None of those stories were instant classics for me, but they seasons for other issues.
Yeah, and when you're standing in the shop, and you just got 2 Superman specials that were $5 each, and a Doomsday Clock that was $5, you're like, a quarter? Are you kidding me? The sleeve and the board cost a quarter. Give me it.
Right.
So I think it was worth it.
Yeah, for that Superman story about Perry White, you'd have a different view, but it was what it was. I mean, I was not a big fan of Man of Steel. Either issue, it's not clicking with me. There are some people who like it. It's not selling terribly well considering all the hype. But Bendis has his fans. I'm very notably not one of them.
They really hyped that. I think they overhyped it, but at least it's not as bad as it could have been.
Well, I wanted there's somebody in the chat who wanted to know. Can you ask PERCH why he thinks the wedding, the Batman Catwoman wedding, won't happen?
So I don't. There's been some speculation that retailers have been told something. I haven't. I'm reading a bit of the tea leaves about it with how the Catwoman series is being solicited and what they're saying there. She's on the run. It does not sound like it's a married Catwoman issue. And then there's been enough kind of hints about the solicited afterward, and even kind of I don't know. I'm reading a lot of circumstantial evidence, but it really doesn't feel like this thing's coming home with a wedding. And Tom King is a kind of a master of it. Not bait and switch, but setting things up and then delivering a result that you don't expect. So I would put hard money with that. But it's a guess, granted.
Do you think it's possible that the Catwoman books that you're seeing would be with a different Catwoman, like Holly Robinson or someone?
If that happens, it's possible, but that would be, they definitely solicited Kyle. So that would be almost a bigger, there'd be outright lying in the solicit to somebody else.
Okay. Huh. Interesting.
So, I don't know. I having read a lot of King's work in the past, it feels like a setup for a big twist. But we'll see. I don't see it happening.
Wow.
I'd like to. Yes.
You think that might cause a fan backlash?
Yeah, I do. I think I don't know how many fans want Batman to be married. I think that I don't think this is necessarily something that the people are asking for, but the fact that they have hyped it so much and there's been ads and special issues and all the rest of the stuff, I think that there's going to be a bit of a King has to pull off a really clever switch if it is going to be a switch. But I'm legitimately fascinated to see what goes down, because I do not expect the wedding to happen, and I expect there to be some interesting twist. And I'm just the level of twist has to be really good at this point, based on how people are looking at it.
Wow. See, that's really interesting. I did not suspect that might be what's going to happen, or not happen, rather.
Yeah, I appreciate that you're actually being, you're tempering, not trying to build the hype up. Oh, this will be the greatest thing ever, and then it ultimately, because it will be. If this happens to be the case, they're going to bait and switchy, or it's like promoting it as a wedding, and then it doesn't happen. She leaves him at the altar, and then Catwoman on the run from whatever, or something like that. If that even happens, if they get that far. That, there would be backlash because of that, and it's not in the good kind, oh my god, I can't believe they did that. That was such a surprise and everything like that. But more like, oh my god, I feel ripped off and they lied to, and I think that's going to be more likely. And if they go that route, but yeah, that's really that's one of the things about the comics promotion and the hype machine. It's like you can't really do it in this. I mean, like what was the first incident that like what Armageddon 2000 or whatever when it was supposed to be Captain Atom being the bad guy, and then that got out and they had to change it, to be Hawk and Dove or something, and like and now like they can't because everybody now looks at reviews and like they kind of keep up to date like what's going to be coming out. So the retailers can order appropriately. Now they can't even do that because it's like, you can't be like if you can piece 2 and 2 together, and like the stories are not the most groundbreaking, original. We've never seen this before, but you can't even be surprised because the solicitations, like it's like now it's like too inside baseball. Like everybody knows how the sausage is made for the most part, so you're not really surprised like when stuff like this happens.
No, it's like, and you get into a trap where Secret Empire, people had guessed the ending right at the beginning, and Marvel's in a state when Spencer in a state where they have to say, no, we're not just going to undo this all with kind of a magical, Rogers was brainwashed. This is really Rogers, but of course it wasn't, and so the internet's a little bit more savvy. The solicitations are coming out, so it's hard to market and promote stuff. I don't. It's not an easy problem, but at the same time, you got to juggle that really carefully. I do think. I don't know. I think Batman's got a lot. There's a lot of risk. So I will definitely take my hat off to Tom King if he can pull this one off, deliver something unexpected, and I'm rooting for him. I don't expect.
Yeah, because
since
this
we're
right
talking about.
No, so go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, since you're talking about Tom King, I guess this might be kind of spoilers for people if you haven't been reading Mr. Miracle, but a lot of the characters in Mr. Miracle have been killed or died. So like, is that in the main continuity, like in the Rebirth universe, or what? Because there's a significant amount of New Gods who have died. So, like, what's the deal? Do you know? PERCH?
I think that I haven't had a conversation with the creators. I think that there's probably people should just let the story play out. I think it is in continuity. Everything you think.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, because I think I saw Tom King tweet at one point. Someone asked him if it was like in the main continuity or if it was an Elseworlds thing or what, and if I remember right, he said it was basically canon for the main continuity. So
yeah,
just wait and see, huh?
It is canon for the main continuity, but you like that issue is very. The whole series is very thought process. Like I said, you may not be seeing what you think you're seeing. That's kind of the whole magician's trick.
Huh. Yeah, it's a very strange book.
I think a lot of people are going to go back once it's over and reread the first 2 issues and the second issue and feelings that they didn't pick up on before in light of how the series developed. It's a very good series. Just remember that it's an escape artist. You're kind of dealing with the whole Houdini kind of escape artist. What's the trick? What's the sleight of hand being played? It just means that as a reader, think you.
Interesting. That's one I think is going to sell really well as a trade for a long time.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I think honestly with Mr. Miracle, the way they're doing that, it's like the reverence. Like it seems like for people to actually, get, and read and be excited for Mr. Miracle and Big Barda, which for the longest time feel like they were just kind of neglected.
Yeah.
Like there's certain people who didn't neglect them, like Byrne didn't even know they did that really sleazy sleaze or whatever shows up, the apocalyptic pornographer.
Sleaze. His name was Sleaze.
Oh,
and they brought him back too, which I don't like. I was glad.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the character, but
they should leave him dead.
But yeah, it's like these. I like the fact that more people are getting to know about these characters, but it's just I feel like they're, you know, like there's still a lot more books out there. Like we need a solid Like I would love another JSA book along the lines of the John Squire Robinson run from back in the day. It's like something along those lines, a family book.
I feel like they're gearing up for the JSA somewhere down the line because you got Mr. Terrific, so maybe once Terrifics wraps up, they'll get something going.
Basically, the Fantastic Four.
Right, the Fantastic Four, pretty much, more or less, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, if that happens, if Mr. Terrific forms a new JSA, like I'd love to see that. I mean, what they did, I felt so attached to that when that, you know, around the time of the Lightning Saga, the Brad Meltzer Justice League run. That one when they had you know, like that team in their Red Tornado, the granddaughter of you know, she's like a little wacky. I think she's like a little mentally unhinged, but I like her.
Cyclone.
Cyclone or something. But you had Liberty Bell, the new Liberty Bell, who used to be Jesse Quick. And I love that costume design. You know, the kind of the adventure, like this. That I'm like, they looked great. You know, like, it was disappointing when they just kind of, like, it seemed like they just faded away. Like, and then John's just going to doing other stuff. But like, if the attention, if his attention wasn't on it, and then like they just like kind of squandered him, and then just whatever. They'll just they'll turn into dust. You know. But
yeah,
they've
got a lot of characters to bring back. Been a gradual process, but they've been getting them in there. You know what I actually heard, what's holding all this stuff up, right, is Doomsday Clock being delayed.
Well, that might be the case. I don't know.
That's what I heard. That's what's holding up Legion of Superheroes and Shazam and JSA, from what I've heard.
Yeah, I know JSA and Doomsday Clock are carefully tied together, and if you've read the most recent issue, I think you're starting to see signs of that. I don't know about Shazam. I think there may be some waiting to get in alignment with the movie, or just a creators getting through. They're not necessarily tied to the storyline, but tied to one of the creators.
Okay.
But I think JSA and Legion are definitely connected into the block, and JSA used to get involved for incident.
So yeah, I think it's the Doomsday Clock being delayed, holding these things up at this point.
Yeah,
Doomsday Clock was a mistake. I'm in that camp. I'm sorry. It's like they should have just said it's gonna be original graphic novel. Here you go, or a 12 issues with Gary Frank, and it's like 30 extra pages, like 30 some odd pages of issue. Oh dear God, it's gonna take forever.
I bet DC isn't regretting it at all, though, because it sold really well.
I know, but it's for me. It's like I'm one of the outliers. I'm the guy. I'm Rorschach. The end is nigh.
You look at a #1 book some months being like 120,000, and Doomsday Clock's clearing 200,000 every time for like a #4 or #5 issue. That's a big deal. $5 a piece. DC's loving it.
It does fine. I'm sure they would rather have it coming out faster, but it's fine.
That's going to sell well.
I want to apologize to everybody. I know my connection's not good. It is like dumping rain, and it is a mess here. The lights are flickering, so I apologize to everybody getting my bad connection.
I was wondering if it was if that was being the case, because it's like it sounds like, I mean, it sounds like, you know, when you got bad connections like through storms. So it's all good. It's like your area, it's well known for it. You know, Pacific Northwest. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often.
I'm just at some point, if I just vanish, I lost power, so I apologize to everybody in advance.
Hopefully you don't. Hopefully you don't. But yeah, that right there, like, I mean, like, it does look poorly on DC. The fact that that's poor planning. That, you know, every 2 months, you know, like, oh, books are coming out once a month. Now it's like every other month, you know, every 2 months, and that to me that looks very. When people say, "Oh, that person's being unprofessional," that's unprofessional to me. Well, I can't help it, you know.
One thing that really proves that they didn't plan it well is if you look at issue 1 of Doomsday Clock. It's really long, and it's got all kinds of extra detailed stuff at the end, which like they had in Watchmen, like it's newspaper clippings or something. But all that stuff, Gary Frank had to sit there and draw. Meanwhile, they're delaying the actual story 5 months at a time. So it's like he spent way too long on issue 1, in my opinion. And issue 1 didn't have 3 covers that he did, and issue 2 had 2 covers that he did. So, you know, they should have given him way more time. Or just been like, hey, you make this sucker shorter, because they are longer than a normal comic. And then at least the first 2 issues had additional little extra stuff at the end. So, I don't know, they definitely could have trimmed it maybe, or just planned better.
I think they should have got in my opinion, if Dave Gibbons, like, throw money at Dave Gibbons, hey, I know this is like a sore wound for you, possibly, but here you go. Can you come back and draw this? I'd have been more excited for that. You know, I'd be more forgiving, you know, like getting a Dave Gibbons or somebody with a Dave Gibbons style. Like, I mean, the book was going to sell either way. Gary Frank, I'm like, I like Gary Frank, but I don't see him moving books like, you know, like.
Well, the thing is, he could move Superman books. I was hyped
that's
to
Superman,
see him draw. Well, that's the thing. I was hyped to partly buy this because of Superman. You know, the cover for number 1 I bought, it's got Superman on the cover. He's been in this very little. I haven't read issue 5 yet, but he wasn't in 2, 3, or 4 at all. So it's a little bit of a misfire in that regard too, because, you know, Gary Frank did New Krypton and drew Superman quite a bit, so it seems like you.
Yeah, Superman Legion, that was a good story.
Yeah, the Legion is. So you pull in a lot of Superman, Superboy, Legion fans and stuff, but then those characters aren't in it at first very much, so it's a little strange.
Yeah, I mean, I feel it's very poorly planned, but hey, what do I know? Yeah, I know nothing. I'm a nobody, so I have no voice.
Well, he's a good artist, you know. It's worth the wait, I think. It's hard to wait, and you know, my enthusiasm has waned a great deal from issue 1. I will say that.
It's limping along. It's just like anytime they bring out Watchmen again, it's like, oh yeah, great. Like, hey, we're getting a new. Guess what? You love Watchmen? You're getting an HBO Watchmen show. Oh, and it's from Damon Lindelof. Oh, and it's from the man who brought you Prometheus and Lost.
Oh man.
No, but you'll like number 5. You got you got some Joker in there. You got some Disney in there. It's actually the weight between number 5 and number 6 is harder. Stuff actually is happening with issue 5.
Yeah, I got the variant cover with Joker on it, and I noticed he's got the compact that Marionette had in like issue 2. So I figured there was going to be a lot more going on. Like, all right, the Marionette and the Mime are actually going to start interacting with the Joker because they were looking for him before. I saw some kind of a spoiler, so I know Batman's in it. So a lot ought to actually happen, but it is hard to wait between issues. So I don't know. It's a bittersweet thing with Doomsday Clock. And they need to get Superman in there. And like Lex Luthor, he was shot in issue 2, and I haven't seen him for like 2 issues. Is he alive or what? You know, there's a lot of things they've got in the air. So by the time I was at the end of issue 4, I was like, okay, we were a third of the way through. Basically, you've just been setting up stuff and introducing mobs of characters. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to whatever is in the future, what the future holds for certain stuff. Like, I'll probably read Doomsday Clock when it's all finished, but dear God, if it costs as much as like the individual issues, $60 for the hardcover, what? That's but like that's really expensive. It's like, I mean, I understand it's like, oh, it'll be in print for this many years to come, and like, yeah, they thought the same thing about before Watchmen.
Hey,
man, they bundle those things up trying to like. Because I think initially I think they had them as individual trades or something. I think smaller.
I like the Darwin Cook covers though.
I have to say I lost all respect for creators. Every single one that did before Watchmen.
Even Jay Lee and
all
Darwin
of them.
Cook?
Darwin Cook, Jay Lee, Amanda Connor, every single one of them. It's like, hey, let's do a prequel to Watchmen. I'm like, we're going back to Money Truck Up. I can't. It's like Watchmen was great as a standalone thing. Like, if you're gonna dig up its corpse, you know what? You go full, not Weekend at Bernie's. You go Weekend at Bernie's 2. You start playing some like voodoo music, and like you have Rorschach versus Dark Knight Returns Batman. Go ahead, go full tilt. Don't half-ass it, full ass. You know, the true Rorschach's back, not this. You know,
always like a Simpsons. Oh, Larry, do you not like the new Rorschach because he's an African American?
Oh no, I just don't like the new Rorschach because it's not Rorschach.
No, that's the takeaway that the internet's going to use.
You know what? I don't accept no substitutes. Accept no substitutes, because guess what? It ain't going to be the same as when you're not locked in here with. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me. You know, it doesn't work. That is not any new Rorschach won't be that Rorschach. Unless it's like the spirit of Walter Kovacs possess some. You know,
it must be, because he memorized like his exact speech patterns and acts just exactly like him, which is pretty impressive from just reading a journal.
What if he's from like the same Earth that Sunshine Superman's from, where you get? Most people like Sunshine Superman. Yeah, there is a Sunshine Superman out there.
So funny story about that. I had a guy come into the shop buying Watchmen and was convinced. I mean, he's an idiot, didn't realize the publishers. Convinced that Cletus Cassidy was Rorschach from the Watchmen, same character, and just would not give this up. Multiple times into the store, always pitching that theory. That's who that character was. That's how he was out. The reason why he was coming back with the Watchmen Doomsday Clock sequel is because the Carnage blood was in him, and he could do. I swear to God, it went on and on and on. And
wow.
The bizarre conversation I've ever had in the shop was that those are the same characters. Hilarious.
That honestly beats like that. There was a guy who's he had issues with homosexuality, and I did that. He was like complaining about Ultimate Colossus being gay, and his, Pietro Rasputin steel jacketed for his pleasure, and the look this guy gave me is like death eyes of death. But
he didn't think it was funny, huh?
But he did not think it was funny at all. I got some laughs. I got some chuckles from the guys around the comic shop. But yeah, it's like stuff like that. It's like there's, fan theories and everything. I have a theory about everything of DC, and I started laughing my ass off. Me and my brother were talking about this on the drive back over to run some errands, and and my theory with the whole like, why Rebirth? Why New 52? Why all this stuff, this and that? And then it turns out to be Superboy Prime is in the real world, and he works for DC Comics in the real world. And it's like, you know what? Let's get rid of that little girl. Let's get rid of that Leanne Harper. And it's like, let's how about this? How can we make them feel inferior? Bring the Watchmen over, yeah. And then it's
let's see. Roy Harper is an archer. Oh, let's rip his arm off. Yeah,
exactly.
We have blood spewing all over the page, and just him crying, and Green Arrow afterwards in misery.
But how can we make that worse? Oh yeah, the Blade was infected with nanites, so now he can't even get a cybernetic arm. He's got to be one-armed for a while. Yeah, let's take away Superman's wife and child, or wife. Let's take wife at that time. Take away his wife.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. It's like, oh God, it's Just I had an idea. How do you deal with Superman Prime if he's that powerful? And like he's insane because he was just a normal dude until Christ and the Infinite Earths happened, and then he became a god basically. Well, he's like Silver Age Superman, pulling planets with chains and all this other stuff. But how do you deal with him? Send him to the dreaming. Separate his consciousness, his dream self from his body, and then send him to the dreaming. Have Dream and the rest of the Endless deal with him. He could putter around with the from House of Mystery, the dude from House, the two dudes, Cain and Abel. He could put around with Cain and Abel. So right there, that's a great way to deal with it. It ties all the DC universe together. Like one thing that bothered me with the whole New 52 when they introduced Beast Boy and the red and everything like that, the idea of the animal part being part of the red. Why is Beast Boy green? Green is just because the chemical process to save his life, his parents did. He's green, but when he taps into the red, he goes from green to red. He actually, it's like Super Saiyan, except for Beast Boy. So stuff like that can make sense. I don't think they ever touched upon that, not to my knowledge. But these ideas exist, and Superboy Prime would be a great with Superboy Prime. I think the last time we saw him is he was writing fan fiction for DC Comics. It's like, hey, he calls up DC one day, gets a job with them. It's possible. They hire a supervillain to write for him.
I don't think he's got the patience to write anything, though.
Oh God, Superboy's responsible for the. Hey, let's rape Sue Dibney. Oh my God.
He probably is. I can see him writing it. I think he probably would have blown up by now if he was here.
What'd you say?
I said that's how you close up DC. That's how your final issue, you pan back, and that's what he's doing. He's responsible for Lobdell and all these things, and it's like, all right. And then he gets off the internet and goes out into the world and gets hit by a car or something. And
oh God, yeah.
People stop reading comics.
Oh my God, we need to do that.
You wrap it all.
Oh my God, that needs to happen. That really needs to happen.
Yep.
Oh my God, that's just great.
He goes and does a Kickstarter. That's what he does.
Hey, you don't see him use Dr. Light too much anymore. Kind of ruined him for people.
Wow. Yeah, that one's done.
Yeah, it's like that right there. I'm
just no rebirth, Dr. Light. Sorry, he's not getting his solo series.
That right there makes when they say comics are much when they say mature, they're more like Watchmen as far as the depth of the content and the complexity of the story, where all that. No, let's just have horrible stuff happen to these characters because we can, not because it makes sense, but because we can. And the whole thing, I just want to get back with my husband. What? That's the plot of the story, really? That's the end plot. I hated that comic so much. I hated Identity Crisis so much. Everybody's like, I did like one thing. I did like that when Deathstroke, I think we broke Kyle's hand and it was trying to get the ring off, and then he gets stabbed in the eye. That was actually kind of cool, but that's about it. That was about it. But that was still a little too violent for a DC book. It was too Marvel. I hate when Marvel becomes DC and DC becomes Marvel. The Infinity Gauntlet stuff, that's too DC for me, and Identity Crisis, the rest that's too Marvel. I hate when they don't. It's like, hey, peanut butter and chocolate peanut butter, that's fine. But sometimes I just like my peanut butter to be peanut butter and my chocolate to be chocolate, But
so both companies have a house style, but I don't think they have how would you say a book is too Marvel? Is it too colorful or?
No, when they get when Identity Crisis, that's more of a Marvel story, the gritty, the focus on
maybe back
characters' emotions and stuff like that.
Civil War.
A Civil War. That was that right there. That was Miller being Miller. Though.
Yeah, he's always so edgy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's done better work. He has done a lot, Starlight. That was amazing. His Flash Gordon ripoff, which. I don't see that actually working as a great Netflix show, considering how the quality of Netflix content is. You might get one good episode, the rest of it's just. But hey, he made money off of that deal, so good for him. But I'd have gone to Amazon myself if that was an option. Netflix, I think they're still operating in the red. They don't really make a profit. They're just one of these days they're just going to close shop. What are people going to do? But
Netflix is I mean, a lot of people don't realize Netflix has been around longer than Google. It's they've got a crazy business model that they use.
They used to do DVDs in the mail, right?
I think they still do that.
No, they still do.
Oh, that's how they started, I guess. But people just think of it as
they still have that business. They've got, they get money from governments. It's funny. They're crazy business.
Oh, wow. Well, Maybe it's like, hey, you watch these many movies in a row, that makes you like some type of terrorist risk or something.
Yeah, you never know.
Oh my God, he's watched he's watched Garbage Pail Kids 20 times in a row. We got to stop him. Send out the ATF to his house. He's probably building bombs, watching Garbage Pail Kids.
They should put you on a watch list if you bought 5 Doomsday Clock issues in a row like I did. This guy is a sucker. Put him on a watch list.
Oh, if he's going to be convinced by a piece of paper, he'll definitely be convinced by an imam to drive a truck of pizza.
He's just giving his money to DC. We better keep an eye on him.
You know what? I do agree with part of that, though. There are a lot of people like they keep giving, if this book wasn't that good, but I'll give the next issue a shot, and then it happens again. That book wasn't that good, I'll give the next issue a shot. At what point do you just say no, never, not anymore? But that right there, just like that's why, like I know it hurts shops. That's why I go and buy something else. I stop paying money on a book I don't like and go either buy something in the back issues.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's way more books than I have money to buy. I mean, cutting one book doesn't mean I would buy less comics. It just means I'd buy a different one. I agree. And, you know, I'm so conflicted on Doomsday Clock. I don't regret buying it, but...
One day I'll get to... I'll break your spirit.
Yeah. You're just like an Alan Moore fanboy, though, I mean...
It's like, not Alan Moore, it is... DC broke... And, you know, what do you expect? It's a corporation. Like, okay, once Watchmen goes out of print, the rights will revert back to, Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. Well, of course, that's never happened. And it won't never happen. We'll keep that in print to keep it. Because it's like one of these things, like that's just what they do. And then Jim Lee, and maybe I'm wrong, he basically sold, when he sold Wildstorm, he sold Alan Moore up the river to DC. Because Alan Moore thought, I'll never work DC again. And then, but he'd already signed the contract with Wildstorm, and they had to honor that contract with DC, and Wildstorm became part of DC, and so the America's Best Comics stuff got rolled into, even though for some reason, I guess he was able to keep League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, I think. I'm not I don't know the deal because League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is being published by Fantagraphics, I believe, or Top Shelf. But
sure, that cracks the top 300.
Yeah, that's that's the thing. It's like his stuff is going super niche, but when he goes out, somebody did point something out. Alan Moore, he doesn't really go off against fans, more like more generalities, corporations, and the attitudes of the prevailing time, or unless you're Margaret Thatcher, then he'd probably still trying to.
See, his life would be a lot simpler, and he'd make a lot more money if he wasn't like.
He doesn't want to do that though. That's the thing. He's a lot
get
of
with
these
the program. It's capitalism. You can be a socialist, but don't get mad when you get.
A lot of comics creators are socialist minded.
I know. It's so stupid.
The thing about this, but the same ones are socialist minded when to free this, free that, free this, free that. Like, hey, do me a free drawing.
Right.
I'll give you exposure. How dare you?
Well, that's why they like socialism, because they don't have to pay for anything. They don't want to have to earn money to buy things. They just want to have things.
Yeah, but I want art for free. I want I want me some free Alex Ross art or something. But that ain't gonna happen.
Right.
But
Alex Ross will pretty much draw anyone a picture if they'll pay, though.
Yeah, well, if you got the money, it's just pretty much how these people are.
But for him especially, you can just put in an order on his website like regular people. I know someone who does a Comic-Con I don't know them, but I talked to them, and they're in Asia. But anyways, they just ordered a special thing from Alex Ross just for their Comic-Con. So I'm sure it cost a pretty penny.
I mean, I don't like the fact that a lot of these artists, I don't know how you feel about this, Perch. I don't know if you buy original artwork or I know some people that buy them for their shops, to have to this shop and have it, dedicated to the shop and personalized, or to the owner of the shop. But I hate when artists will only do one size. It's you have to buy the $100 minimum kind of thing. It's don't you have a $20 sketch card or 30, something along those lines, a head sketch? Hey, just draw Captain America head sketch for $20. There you go. Make quick money, quick buck. I just want some art that won't break the bank.
It's time. It's. I think if they've got the artists that don't get a lot of incoming requests will be quite flexible, but ones that that have a steady stream, I mean, they're just going to stick to something that's it's making the best dollar for their hour, I guess. If you're drawing something for 5 minutes on a note power card versus an hour on a bigger piece of board, it's better economics for you to do the big board. I wish people were more flexible too, but I get why. It's just what they can get away with, more or less. So
yeah, yeah, that's more likely the case. It's like, it is disappointing though. You go to, like, I go to conventions, like I got HeroesCon coming up this week, and I was going through the list, and it's actually, I'm only going for the Sunday because I used to go all day, all 3 days, and I don't think any panel will top. I went to panel in 2008. It was the Image panel. On the panel was Jonathan Hickman, Robert Kirkman, and a bunch of other people. Now I was sitting in the front row. Nobody else wanted to sit in the front row, like they were cowards. And Robert Kirkman was busting my balls the entire thing, and like, and it was funny. It was like, like, oh, like, it's like, oh, I write zombies, ooh, and like it was being a prick, and it was funny. It was like, we're just like, not in a mean way, but just like, whatever. It's like trolling in real life. But it was pretty cool. Like it was like a pretty cool panel. But I don't think anything will top that because they're giving out a ton of free stuff. They had Eric Stevenson was there, and Eric Larson at that time. So like, all these people that, this back when still kind of Image wasn't what they are now. Like they're more kind of, the Image still had a little bit of a bite to it. This like when they were like kind of they were putting out, there was some kind of Willis Portacio drawing. I don't know exactly what it was. It was some kind of drawing. It was like, I don't think it ever came to anything. It was like, we're premiering this here or something like that. But he wasn't even there. I think he was supposed to be. He didn't come. But yeah, it's like, I used to go for all 3 days, but I'm only going for next Sunday. And I'm looking at the list of the creators. You got Tim Sale, and you got other Tim Sale, and other people like Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez is going to be there. Mark Texeria, a lot of these, like kind of. It's like pretty cool. But then I looked and I saw Ramon Villalobos, Tamara Bombville, and like, oh no.
Oh no.
It's like,
no.
Like I'm so tempted. It's like, why did you block me? Like just like I'm like, why did you block me? Like they go up there and like very like hunched over and kind of sad looking. Why'd you block me? I didn't do nothing to you. Really, I'm just gonna go walk by. What's the point? But when it comes to these conventions, like I will say this much: like watch some of these creators draw even for a little bit, like Doc Shanner. Like that's great. I mean, to actually see him draw.
Oh, one that's cool. I follow the Qbert School on Twitter. They post videos all the time, and sometimes it'll be like Joe Qbert from back in the day, or one of his sons, and they'll be drawing just like you're saying, and it's just a class watching, and they'll just be drawing. It's really cool.
It's really interesting to see how people work and like their process and everything, because it's like to actually see how they work, and it's like, you got Paul Azaceta, Mark Bagley, let's see, Michael Cho, not Frank, but Shane Davis, Evan Dorkin, Charles Forsman. That's actually that's the guy I really want to go see, Charles Forsman. But it's more indie kind of stuff. Jose Luis Garcia-Lopez, Michael Golden. Yeah, so it's like Matt Kent is going to be there. I'm going to take some of my Exo Manowar books. So yeah, Joelle Jones. Ain't Joelle Jones doing the Catwoman stuff, or is that somebody else?
No, that's Jones.
Okay. I was like, because I was pretty sure it's like she's taking over for that. You got Greg Land, Jay Lee, these kind of guys. Like Al Milgram, I didn't know he was still alive. I felt bad about that. I was like, he's still alive? Yeah. But yeah, it's like Jerry Ordway, Kevin Nolan, Dan Ponocyan, Ed Pisker. A lot of really pretty cool creators and stuff. So it's to see these people show up, and it's like I like that, and I like the idea of like meeting these people in person, because like I've had more than one interaction with Eric Larson at conventions. It's nothing but nice, and when he's not doing commissions, he'll do free sketches, really quick ones and great ones too, like Thing, Savage Dragon, whatever.
Well, real quick, we've been going for a little over 3 hours. So.
Yeah, I figured we'll wrap it up because my voice is getting a little hoarse.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if you wanted to go, but which is fine. We'll just wrap it up then. But Perch was needing to go too, so
okay.
I guess we're heading in that direction. But one thing, though, I wanted to let everyone know down in the description box, we got links for everybody. There's Comic Perch's Twitter and Larry King's comic book channel. And then there's a really cool Kickstarter for Timothy Truman, who's doing a book called Scout Marauder, right, Larry?
Yes, Scout Marauder. Tim Truman also did Hulk World. You can find Hulk World actually still on sale, I believe, on Comixology for like $6, $5 or $6. So the Hulk World three issue series that they did back in the day. But yeah, Hulk World. Go Hulk World. Then you can also pick up. Pledge to the Scout Kickstarter, which looks amazing. I'm actually looking. That's actually a book. It's like, oh my god, this should have like $500,000 worth because it looks that good. But of course, that's just not how it goes. But
even if you don't buy it, just definitely check it out. Timothy Truman did a lot of art for a really long time. He's been around for a really long time. Did art for DC for decades. So I am blown. Yeah, Perch knows. And I'm blown away. There's all these Kickstarters and Indiegogos that aren't getting a lot of love. But Timothy Truman's got a book right now. It's 100 pages, right, Larry?
Yes, 100 pages, full color, and it's fantastic looking.
Oh, it's beautiful. Just look at the preview pages. It's
just give it a shot. Just give it a look. If you like it, great. Don't, well, just not for you then.
Yeah, no worries. Just thought it was a cool project, and I like to support that kind of thing. So, did you guys have any final words?
It was fantastic coming on, chatting with you again, as well as Perch. So this is always a good time. Perch is always a good guest.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming on, Perch and Larry.
And thank you for great. I apologize for the mic issues, but next time we'll be not crazy outside. And it was great to be on. Thank you guys.
Thank you, and I'll see y'all later. I'm gonna go ahead and bounce out. So good night and good luck, folks.
Cool, absolutely. We'll see you guys.